Tick-tock, tick-tock. See, if I put that right there, I can see the clock. Stay there, will it? Not right there. Yeah, there. Perfect. 6:30. Call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Select Board meeting, Weathersfield Select Board meeting, May 16th, 2022. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Paul, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you all. Agenda review, I would like to move the number 9, large gathering permits, up to follow the public hearing, probably? So to 6, or does anybody think maybe we ought to go right to 5 with those, get them done?
Fine, let's just get them done.
5?
Sure.
Okay. We'll make those 5. Comments from, anything else anybody would like to move around on the agenda for any reason? Okay. Comments from citizens, topics not on the agenda. Ray?
I'm going to speak on behalf of the Parks and Rec Committee.
Oh.
They asked me if we could come to the board and see about, we're putting on a fishing derby the day before Father's Day, I think it's June 18th, here in town, and they were going to request funds to cover the expense of a porta potty, which is $140, and approximately less than $50 for some trophies. We didn't know if we could get some funding from the redemption soda money to cover that, to help us out. I don't know what else we have for coming down for money to go out for the music festival and things like that that are coming up. So it would be $140, less than just under $200.
Okay, and that's taking place on 6/18?
Yeah, it's the day before.
All right, so-
Which is the 18th.
All right, so Brandon, can you look into the funds in the rec account?
Yes.
And whatnot, and see where we can come up with that, and take that up at the next meeting?
Yep. Got it.
That work? I think, 6/18, that work, that's before, that okay, that before?
Yeah, I mean, if not, we can, if we really do have money in our rec account, we could probably.
Yeah, which I don't think you need our, for that, anyway, you don't need our approval. So,
We'd get Brandon
But-
approval for that.
yeah, very good. Review minutes, or any other comments? Anybody else? Comments from citizens? Ryan, how are you? Has it, we got a sign-in sheet? We need a piece of paper so we can get people signed in, people that are here. We do have a hearing tonight, yeah, well, any meeting has to be that way anyway. Okay, review minutes from the previous meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of 4/18/22?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments on the minutes? I did see a few little typos in there, but I think,
Number 48, line number 48, should be event instead of even.
yep. And that's basically what I found, were just some misspelled words. So it's easy, an easy cleanup. I'm sure Chauncey can handle that. Any other comments on the minutes?
I have a regular comment.
Okay,
Well, actually, under agenda review, if we could add in.
we're not on agenda review right now, we're under the minutes.
Sorry.
Any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, 4/18/22, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Brendan, we're past the comments, and the review. Agenda review, what did you have on agenda review?
The local emergency management plan adoption, and then John Harrison contacted us and asked to do an end of session update after the public hearing.
Yep, and you notified me of both of those things. Well, I don't see John here yet. So, next is a public hearing, adoption of bylaw amendments and zoning map. Let me see, wait a minute.
Large gatherings.
We gotta do the large gatherings first. Large gathering permits. Wellwood Orchard Harvest Festival, September 3rd, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Dave, we don't have any special board opening like we do with the liquors thing, do we, with this? Okay, thank you. And the second one is the same Wellwood Orchard Strawberry Festival, June 25th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. These are both one site. Brandon, any comments on those?
I don't have any
The
comments.
large gatherings, the permits are all in, they're all signed, you've talked with the police and all arrangements are made.
I talked to both fire chiefs. I have not heard back from the police chief regarding the large gathering permits at this time.
They've been doing this for how long, Dave?
But I thought I saw on the thing that he might have signed off on it, did he? I don't have the permit thing, because I gotta go through the whole zoning thing to get to that, but didn't I see,
The zoning thing shouldn't be in here. In here.
on my screen here?
It shouldn't be on, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be, it is.
Oh, okay, I'm still going through the ARPA thing. I don't know,
If you're on the town website and you log in to the agenda there or the packet there, it's not in the packet there. If you log into it on your email, it's there.
but I thought I caught the permit for Wellwood, and I thought I saw,
Hey, chief,
Maybe I'm
were you
off.
able to review the large gathering permits for Wellwood Orchards?
Yeah, for the strawberry and the other one, I can't think what the other one is right now.
The Harvest Festival.
Yes.
Are you all set?
All set.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
Bill's all set.
Okay?
I didn't recall any issues, because it's, like, pretty sure I saw the thing where it said no alcohol. So
Yes.
so that's like part of the problem of security and things, so. I make a motion that we approve, large gathering permits for Wellwood Orchard for June 25th and September 3rd as printed and recorded in the town office.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the large gathering permits for Wellwood Orchards for two different festivals, one on June 25th, one on September 3rd, both from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Now that takes us back to public hearing, adoption of bylaw amendments and zoning map. I will open a hearing for the zoning bylaws.
Point of order.
Yes?
It was one for 6:45. Can you open it early?
Should have been, was it? Oh, you cannot open it or early. 6:45 or 6:15?
6:45.
I thought I saw 6:45 as well, so why don't we just take up a couple of other things
That's,
fast?
yep, we have to. We can't open early.
For the record, what time is it?
I have.
6:38.
6:38 right now. 6:38.
Is
Yep.
Chauncey not here to take minutes?
She's online.
Oh, I'm
taking
sorry,
notes.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
You're good. Then, Brandon, do you want to do the announcements first, or you want to go right into the building assessments?
We can go into the building assessments,
Okay. Then we will move into,
or we could take up the fire truck. That might be quicker.
fire truck.
Yeah.
Is Darren here yet?
He didn't say that he was coming. He said if we needed him to give him a call
Okay.
on the phone.
All right, well, you don't have to call him if you don't need to. All right, then let's go ahead with the fire truck chassis surcharge. Brandon, take it away.
All right.
Now we're skipping around all over the place.
Yeah. One second. So there is a surcharge on the chassis. Larry and Ashley Dingy contacted us and told us there's a $3,800 surcharge on the chassis. There's a couple of attachments from Freightliner. So during the April 18th Select Board meeting, the board approved $321,822. Voters approved $325,000 for this fire truck. However, the additional surcharge exceeds voter approval by $622.
We're not authorized to spend more than the voters said we could.
That's correct.
Where do you get the overage by 622? That's the first question, because I just did the math, and when you add 321, 822, and 3178, unless I'm wrong, I think I get 325 right on that button. That's number one. But question number two is that correct?
I'm doing it right now, yeah. 325, 622.
It's 325, 622 when you add those two
If you add
numbers?
3,800, yeah, it's 325, 622.
Oh, okay, I went through 3178. Okay, so, okay, then stop that question. Question number one, we on the 18th had a presentation and seemed to me was confirmed that that bid number was good from Darren. That all of that paperwork was the number that we received. So I don't know whether anybody else has, I see the letter from Brandon to us, but when it says, you get an email, or I don't know what ATG means, and then you get a truck letter, I don't have those.
Excuse me, Dave, you are correct. Those were not included in the packet.
So I'm okay with wanting to buy this truck, but I'm not okay with going over what the voters said, because I don't think we can do that. But so we'd have to figure out a way to get to 622. But I'm not understanding how Darren, who's the chief, who is in close contact with the low bidder, or whatever the bid was with Dingy, and represents to us at the last meeting that the number was what it was, and what fell apart between us voting on authorizing that bid to the contract that was proposed to us and some other information that came later than that said, oh, wait a minute, it's 3,800 more. So I'd like to see the dates to see what fell apart.
So what you're looking for is like the original proposal and the 30 days, 60 days, however long that was good for, and what fell apart.
What
that
happened?
changed
We had a
that.
presentation from Darren was here, stood right here and said, and I don't know whether it was you or me, Paul, asked him, is that number what's good? Because we were debating what to go to the 325 or 321. And then, okay, the contract is done, right, Darren? And then he asked us, can I call Dingy and say that it's good for tomorrow, the contract? And we said, of course, we just voted yes. So how does, in this case, I guess, the truck chassis company, where was the real big communication gap between the cab chassis, the manufacturer, which would be Dingy, or Darren, or us, or what happened?
Brandon?
So Larry Dingy and I sat down to review the contract after the select board meeting.
How long after the select board meeting?
It was, let's see, on May, service isn't very good. I'll get you the date in just a second. I contacted Dingy and I asked him why there was an increase. And he said, please see attachments from Freightliner. This can be addressed in a change order. They contacted Larry Dingy later on in the afternoon after we met to review the contract and notified Larry Dingy regarding the $3,800 surcharge.
And what day did that happen? I'm going back to that because Dave's point is that we had, our meeting, I believe, was 5/2.
The 18th of April. Oh, when did we award the contract?
The last meeting,
It
wasn't it?
was, I don't know, was it?
5/2.
Yeah.
Whenever that
That was
was,
the one before that.
the one before the meeting? Was it the 18th of April?
So on May 5th, I received an email that said, "Good morning. Attached is the draft of a contract that we talked about the other day. Later in the afternoon on Monday, we received the attached email from ATG Freightliner, along with the attached letter from Delmer Trucks North America. As you can see, we are being told that they are imposing another $3,800 surcharge on current chassis orders. Please let me know how we can cover this. I do not feel as though I can absorb the entire cost on my end." And that email was sent on May 5th, and the letter from ATG is uploading. That was actually sent on 5/2 from ATG.
But that's not the point. The point is, when did this board vote on the motion to?
5/2.
5-2.
5-2, Dave, it's in the last minutes.
This is- yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
So, get back to the same old. We had Darren here, who was the chief.
Well,
They had the package together.
The question I would ask, based on what Brandon just read, is, they can't absorb it all, okay? Well, we can't go over 325, so I guess we get a hold of them and ask them if they can absorb $622,
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
and we move forward. Does that work?
I guess.
Oh, yeah, so what's next meeting gonna bring us? You know, there's a,
Is there a contract signed for the fire truck right now?
There is.
And it's frozen in at that number?
It was the number prior, because after we did the contract, then they received that information. So it's actually at the 321 right now. We would have to have a contract amendment at this point.
well, contract was signed. Didn't you sign it, right?
I believe so, yes.
Well, I don't know if I want to believe. I want to know.
Yeah, I would have to go back through my,
Well, not only that, but you know, we hold people to contracts around here.
Well, that's my point too.
I don't think we should be rebidding this. I think we should get by, but I think I want to know more information. So I'm with you. So I'm okay with going to the cap that the voters voted on.
Okay.
That's all we got anyways.
That's right. So, other than that, that would be another discussion for another day.
Okay.
But I still want to find out what the dates lined up and what happened. What happened? Why did the truck, I guess they awarded it to Freightliner, I'm not sure. I would have thought that would have been a bid process too, as part of the package that was presented to us to vote on. And then I would have assumed the next morning, somebody would have been notified, yep, let's sign. The three entities, the cab chassis, the builder of the body, and the town.
Yes. And there's a contract, and the number's 321,
Yeah.
822.
What do we have to do tonight to authorize the addition? What do we have to do
We
tonight?
already authorized this amount, I would think. Sorry, I don't mean that.
Well, your vote was specific not to exceed at the last.
Is
I
that,
thought we changed, did we change it back though?
No, we
No,
didn't.
it's not.
No,
So
we did,
it's
we
not-
changed it back to 321, 822.
oh,
I think
what do the
we-
minutes reflect? What do the minutes say?
I don't,
That's what the minutes reflect,
What do they say?
the 321 number,
yes.
Oh, then we do have to take action tonight.
yes.
Yeah, if you want to go to 325, because the motion that we passed
321.80.
was 321.
I make a motion that we amend the fire truck bid contract to authorize the maximum approved by the voters at $325,000.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Paul. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Brandon, that's all. We can't go over what the voters
Yeah,
allowed
got
us
it.
to spend.
I'll negotiate with him tomorrow or tell him that we can't go any further than 325, and then I'll provide Dave the explanation via email, if that's okay.
Okay,
You just gotta make sure you get that signed contract,
Okay.
because we don't want any more. Is it time
it
for the
is,
hearing?
it is time. we had to kind of jump around on our agenda just a little bit because we got to the public hearing before 6:45, so we could not open the hearing yet. So I know it's late, but you can't open a hearing early. Going to open a hearing. This is a public hearing for the adoption of a bylaw amendment and zoning map. Brandon, is the, I forget, is the report and the warning in the packet?
Yes.
Thought so.
So the warning's there, the report's there, but in an effort to keep the packet to a minimum, we
I asked-
printed.
Yes,
Yep.
I asked for this.
Everyone has a copy of that, and then also the map. And
Okay.
there's additional maps and agendas. over there.
Yeah, I have one here if anybody would like a copy. There should be a sign-up sheet going around. Please make sure everybody
There's
gets
two
their
of them.
name.
There's one on this end and one over on that end.
Okay, and please make sure they get signed in, so we have
Yeah.
a record of your presence here for that. At this time, I'm going to read the notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of 24 VSA, Section 442 and 444, the Select Board for the Town of Weathersfield, Vermont will hold a public hearing on Monday, May the 16th at 6:45 PM at Martin Memorial Hall, 5259 Route 5 in Ascutney, Vermont, to hear the public comments on the adoption of the following bylaws. Proposed zoning district map of Weathersfield, Vermont. Table of districts and uses, section 2.5, aquifer overlay district regulations, and also 3 definitions, section 7. Statement of purpose, the Planning Commission is proposing the above listed bylaws in order to better achieve the objectives of the 2017 Weathersfield Town Plan, a revitalized the village centers in Ascutney and Perkinsville areas that have been identified in the plan as growth centers. Geographic areas affected. The entire town of Weathersfield is affected by this amendment. Section headings. Amendment and adoption of the foregoing bylaws. See sections listed above. Persons wishing to be heard may do so in person, be represented by an agent, or may file written comments with the Planning Commission prior to the hearing. Information concerning this matter is available at the Town of Weathersfield office, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., Mondays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Tuesdays through Thursdays, and 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Fridays. Phone number is 802-674-2626. Participation in the local proceeding is a prerequisite to the right to take any subsequent appeal. Remote attendance is available. To join the public meeting on the computer, navigate to the Weathersfield website at weathersfield.org and click on the bridge or enter this link. I'm not going to read the link.
Why not?
Okay. I almost bid on that one. To join public meetings via phone, dial 929-205-6099. When prompted, enter meeting ID 542-595-4364. You will not have a participant ID. Please press number when prompted to skip this section. The passcode for all meetings is 8021. This is dated Town of Weathersfield, Windsor County, State of Vermont, April 25th, 22, and signed by me on 4/26. Planning Commission reporting form for municipal bylaw amendments. Proposed amendments to the Town of Weathersfield zoning bylaws. This report is in accordance with 24 VSA, Section 4441, Section C, which states when considering an amendment to a bylaw, the Planning Commission shall prepare and approve a written report on the proposal. The above referenced proposed bylaws are summarized as follows. A brief explanation of the proposed bylaws, amendment or repeal, and a statement of purpose as required for notice under section 4444 of this title. There are 4 categories of changes being proposed by the Planning Commission to bring zoning in Weathersfield closer to achieving the goals outlined in the town plan. 1, adopt the updated zoning map, proposed zoning district map of Weathersfield, Vermont. This map was adopted in the town plan and is titled the Future Land Use Map. The zoning districts, as they currently exist, were adopted in 1994 in response to a fear of excess development and environmental degradation. There had been spikes in development due to commercial enterprises such as ski areas and breweries, which stained municipal services, harmed natural, historic and scenic resources, and irreversibly converted rural farm and forested land to residential neighborhoods. The town of Weathersfield responded by putting nearly 80% of the town in a conservation district, the thought being that only one resident or primary use was allowed on every 10 acres. It would result in the more dispersed development pattern, thus protecting Weathersfield's rural character. It is now understood that 10-acre zoning is not only is inadequate for the protection of rural character and environmental resources, it also excludes people with low and middle income from living in these areas because of the high cost of owning a 10-acre plus lot, 10 plus acres. The proposed zoning district map of Weathersfield, Vermont brings the zoning district closer to what they were prior to 1994 and more in line with the goals of the town plan. This provides more equitable access to housing and greater flexibility for landowners to develop their land. Section 2, update Section 2.5, Table of Districts and Uses. Several uses have been added to the use tables to provide clarity for applicants interested in common land uses. In the past, a determination would have been needed from the Zoning Board of Adjustment simply because they were not listed in the table. Other items are housekeeping, additions to keep the terminology consistent between the use tables and the rest of the bylaws. Some language has been stricken and some uses have changed categories to clarify or simplify the permitting process. An overlay district section was added to incorporate the groundwater protection overlay district regulations. 3, incorporate the groundwater protection overlay district, parentheses GPOD, ordinance into the zoning bylaws. The GPOD ordinance was adopted by the Select Board on November the 16th, 2020. The ordinance states that it is designed to be incorporated into an existing zoning bylaw. A new section in the district use tables has been added, and language from the ordinance was added to Section 3.2, Conservation of Natural Resources. The new subsection 3.2.10, Groundwater Protection Overlay District Bylaws, contains the performance standards, the procedure for handling district boundary disputes, and the procedure for enforcement and penalties. The definitions contained in the ordinance have been added to the definition section of the Weathersfield zoning bylaws, Article 7. 4, update Article 7, definitions. In addition to the GPOD definitions, there have been a few changes to keep the terminology consistent throughout the plan. 2, how does this proposal conform with or further the goals and policies contained within the municipal plan, including the effect of the proposal of the availability of safe and affordable housing? These changes directly address the conflict between the goals for affordable housing in the town plan, and the regulations that limit such housing. The reduction of a 10-acre minimum conservation district allows for smaller lots to be developed, providing greater opportunities for affordable housing. The remaining conservation district is located in the areas that would be most negatively affected by development. The incorporation of the GPOD bylaw addresses the need for access to safe drinking water for residents, in addition to the environmental and ecological benefits of reducing pollution in the water systems. 3, is the proposal compatible with the proposed future land uses and densities of the municipal plan? The first 2 changes constitute the incorporation of the proposed future land uses and densities of the municipal plan. These changes to the town plan were adopted in 2017, and the changes to the bylaws have been a work in progress since then to make the bylaws more compatible with the town plan. How does the proposal carry out, as applicable, any specific proposals for any planned community facilities? Oh, this stupid thing. Okay, now where did it go? Come on. Oh, I hate these things. Sometimes. Uh-oh.
There's only other one sentence, though. You need it?
It does not address, what was that topic?
The last one, I'll read it, okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Number 4, how does the proposal carry out, as applicable, any specific proposals for planned community facilities? This proposal does not directly apply to any specific proposals for planned community facilities.
Thank you, Dave. And then we'll see if I can get back down to that thing so we can find it. Okay, at this time, the zoning administrator is here. Is there anything you'd like to add to the report at this time?
Not this time.
Not at this time. So the hearing is open for discussion. Are there any comments from anybody? Patty?
First comment, before we get to the content, I know it's the responsibility of the voters to remain current with what's going on, but the first time I realized that that the new zoning map had gotten this far in the process was today when I saw it in Nancy McMenamy's blog. So I would have liked to have seen announcements from the town office, independent announcements from the town office to a front porch forum, or perhaps other kinds of press releases to the area newspapers to get the word out.
Brandon, you can make note of that?
Yep.
Thank you. And, excuse me? Excuse me? Time out.
Okay.
You will wait to be recognized. Thank you. Tom? In response to Mrs. Harrison, there were 3 sets of hearings at the Planning Commission over the last 3 or 4 years dealing with these issues. This isn't the first time.
Well, I
And it's not,
realized that.
and it's also not the first time that it hasn't come here. This is why I asked the town manager to make note of I agree with what you're saying. This stuff should be easily findable and easily recognizable. And I do appreciate that. Tom, you got something?
No, I was just agreeing with her that more of a more public access. There's lots of different digital ways now that are more effective than print. So,
How long has the new website been functional?
About 18 to 20 months.
Okay.
Nobody looks at the website.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think that Front Porch Forum and the 3 area newspapers, the Shopper, the Valley News, and I do look at print, and the Claremont Eagle are your best bets. And I think press releases rather than announcements.
I got a question for Ryan. Did you advertise this in the Valley News?
It was in the Eagle Times.
Oh,
Just quickly for anybody that speaks, we want to just recognize who you are for the minutes so that
Yes,
we can have that. And just as a side note, I don't read any of those publications myself, so that wouldn't help me if I was a citizen. But
well, I will say this, and some people may not like it. The statute specifically lays out the requirement of the warnings, and the town has followed those requirements
multiple
to a
times.
T, multiple times.
You got stuff behind you and around you.
Mr. Gilbertson?
I was trying to keep up with your speed, and perhaps I lost track. So I apologize if this comes later. But CC10, has that been now reduced to a smaller possible requirement? Did I hear you say that during your introduction?
That C10 has been what?
Reduced to a smaller required size?
No, C10 has not been, C10's,
I heard 10 acres going to 3 acres somewhere, and again, I was having a hard time.
I think it's your interpretation of what's happening. The C10 district was approximately 80% of the town of Weathersfield. And the question was posed to regional planning as to whether that was appropriate or not, and the answer came back no. That it was appropriate to have in conservation those areas that most need to be conserved, and the rest should be as usable as possible.
And where did the definition of keep these preserved come from? Where did that decision to move these district lines come from? You had to take some...
From regional planning. And this happened about 4 or 5 years ago, following the adoption of the town plan and the future land use map that was contained in it.
Okay. Again, I don't want to answer the... Did you say in your introduction that a district has been reduced to its required size?
No, I did not.
Okay.
What does GPOD stand for?
Oh, now I gotta go back.
Groundwater Protection Overlay District.
Yes.
Groundwater.
Yeah, and that was Patty, right, Patty?
Patty Harrison, yes.
So please recognize who for the hearing. Your name, please.
That is actually brand new, and we can thank Howard for doing a lot of work on that. Mr. Howard Beach. Anybody else? Anything else?
Be directly behind you.
Ken Blum,
Yes.
back to Patty's original concern about publicity and stuff, or sort of that way. In 1994, when this map was accepted,
No,
1990, you mentioned 1994.
I did. Up until 1994, that's approximately what zoning in Weathersfield looked like. It was 1994 that a map was adopted that changed that, and it changed the entire town to almost approximately 80% into C10. And that's question was posed by the planning commission to regional planning as to whether or not that was appropriate. And the answer was no.
All right, my real question is, when the zoning map was originally accepted and subsequent changes to it, if there have been any, how was that process done? Was it done through a town vote or through selectmen?
No, the changes to zoning bylaws, town plan, subdivision regulations come from the planning commission.
But how did they get enacted? Did they get voted on by
Right.
you or the
Right.
town? This is a big deal.
Well,
Is it you or is it town?
this board has the choice on that.
How were these past maps accepted?
I would have to go back to the minutes, but I believe they were adopted by the select board. John, can you clarify, were you around then at all?
I was just gonna
1994?
clarify that the board indeed has the authority, but they also have the option.
Yes.
of Putting it to a town vote.
Yes, they do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
The
answer.
option is based on the population.
I'd like to answer.
Yes.
Again, both times it's happened. I wasn't here in 1974 when zoning was first enacted, but I'm sure there was a town vote in 1974 to even have zoning. But in 1994, when the current zoning map was changed, the select board at the time voted to do it. So yes, it's happened each way. I'd like to speak about this map.
Go ahead.
This map that's being proposed now was drafted and formed in 2017. It's been a long time in the process, through regional planning, the planning commission. There's been a number of meetings. Gil Whittemore was around when we first started asking questions about this. And I'm just gonna announce what my position is. So people need to remember that in this new proposal, that since the 1994 map was also enacted, we also have had two major changes that has affected any development. One would be the subdivision regulations underneath the zoning. So they still stay intact. So let's say that I have a 10-acre lot that is currently not able to be subdivided, but will with this change, potentially. The subdivision regulations also state that they need to adhere to the standards of which you be able to subdivide, and that would be worked through the planning commission, meaning the most prohibitive one is 1 foot of road frontage for 4 foot of backdrop. So it's not necessarily true that you could have a 10-acre lot that could have three 3-acre lots. It's not true. In fact, it happened on my road. The planning commission ruled that the person didn't have enough road frontage, and it's a 20-acre lot. So that's still staying. The second thing is, all of the setbacks still stay like 50 to 100 feet. The water, the number of setbacks for wells and for watershed increases, as well as all the septic regulations now, we all know, have been diverted to the state. So before, back in 1994, I'm sure the town had the ability, the town manager did, to simply go get an engineer and just give a wink and a nod and the septic was in. That's not the case, and we can't change that even if we wanted to. So, the town, as other towns, this is just what I make a long-range projection. We are, and I've always thought that Weathersfield was a bedroom community. We can argue about what businesses might occur, but the involvement of internet, and I'm hearing different ones now, a couple of my neighbors have Starlink. They say that the speed is phenomenal. It's like $80 a month. So fiber, although we all seem to be in love with it, I'm not sure of that given the younger generation. But I do think we need to grow the town and affordable housing in a thoughtful way that this might allow. Now, there's also one thing that the planning board couldn't do, and I'm not sure that anybody can do it. Since 1994, there has been an increased amount of protected lands in Weathersfield. You'll never see houses down on Route 5 where the Stevens farm is, where the Young farm is, and where, there's one more like off the top of my head. Those have all been preserved by the Vermont Land Trust. Yep, Gary Eastman's. So there are other sections in town that have deed restrictions up Katy Hill Road. All of that land has been protected. The Army Corps of Engineers, 1,500 acres will always be in federal hands for either recreation or nature and wildlife. I looked at this also, and some of it, like the mountaintops and everything else, are still protected with deer yards. All of that language still stays intact. So, I don't have all the answers. This also does, but even our current zoning does, because I can remember talking about it with DeForest. There's still options available, even currently without adopting this, where persons can apply for what's called PUD, which is Planned Unit Development within Conservation 10 zone. Now, I own a lot of property over on Little Scotney Road. I could file for a 10-acre, let's say a 10 or 15 acres. I own 25 acres on one side of the road. I could put 12 houses, pack them right in there, and then part of our current language says I would have to give up and make a common area, they call it, in perpetuity, the other 50 acres across the road for conservation without the ability to have a house. I don't want to do that, but that's existing today.
And that's not going away.
No, but so like when you, so the most sightful thing you can see is, I don't know if anybody takes 131 on your way to Ludlow and you go through Cavendish and you see those Cavendish Commons. There's like 6 or 8 houses around that little half of a horseshoe. I'm sure that's what DeForest had in mind when she was giving that to me for an example. So, I guess I've said what I wanted to say. So it's happened, Ken, to answer your question directly, it's happened twice. One has been a vote, and the selectmen have voted to do it, so.
Wendy?
I also know, just in putting developments in, when we first did one in the 80s, you were allowed to do separate 1-acre lots. And then in 98, the state they were changing, and they went to cluster housing. And I think that's kind of what Dave is saying. Whereas you put the homes in a closer vicinity, and then and that was something the state was changing.
But also the state has really, so the town could do that before with the manager, with the capability of septic. That's no longer the case. It's much harder to fit that in. So it's not some vision of, we're gonna have like all the massive now houses, because the water setbacks, groundwater, and septic has gotten a lot tighter.
I love that there's so many people here to talk to us about this tonight.
You got a hand up on the computer?
I got my hand up right now. Because I've been on the planning commission now for about 12 years. And most of the time, we operate in a vacuum over there. Mr. Tillman's on the planning commission. Mr. Beach is on the planning commission. And we seldom have anybody there talking to us and telling us what they want. We go around and we talk to people and we bounce things off of people and read the town plan and try to do the best we can. We work with other agencies around us. So I want to be very cautious with my next statement, which is, it's very frustrating. At the same time, I'm happy you're here. The planning commission meets twice a month, just like this board, on the second and the fourth Monday. It's an open meeting. We're always there. We're always talking about this stuff. And I know the zoning board members know this, and you're never there, but you're always here. No, that's okay. It's very frustrating because we put a lot of work into this stuff and have a lot of discussion, and we're ignored until it's the 11th hour. I don't think that's fair to your board members. I don't think it would be fair to you gentlemen as zoning board members when things happen like that at the last minute, when you think you're pretty well through something. It's very frustrating. Anyway, but I do want to hear all the comments, whether it's now or before, or if we have to extend this hearing, we will, because I want to hear what people have to say. Paul?
I'd like to go second if you could recognize the person online first.
Who is that?
I can't see either.
Coleman?
Nope, the person with the hand raised. See the little hand raised? Up top.
Oh,
left-hand
it's
corner.
Susan Hindinger.
Okay, sorry. Susan.
Susan Henniger, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, I have two questions. One is the map available for people who aren't present? I can't find it online anywhere. The proposed revised map.
I know it's on the planning commission page. I don't know, is it in the packet on the?
No.
I haven't been able to find it on the planning commission page.
Then I don't know if it's on the town website.
I looked through all the agenda packets and minutes, and
I will follow up on that because I made it very clear that I wanted that up there.
Yeah, it's not there. Okay, and my other question is, as the proposed changes move land out of the conservation districts, my question is how many acres are moved from a conservation district to each of the other districts?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, you have to look at the map and determine whether it's moving into rural residential 1 acre or rural residential reserve, which is 3 to 5, or I don't think any of it goes in the highway commercial. I think most of it ends up in 3-5 rural residential reserve.
So all of the conservation district land that was moved out of conservation district was moved into one of the rural residential categories?
First of all, I want to correct something that you're saying, that all the conservation land. Most of the land that was in the conservation district didn't belong there. Okay, it wasn't, under review of the Regional Planning Commission, what land needed to be in conservation has been kept in conservation. The other stuff shouldn't really have been there anyway.
That was not my question. My question was, of all of the land that was moved out of previously classified in a conservation district, was all of that land that was reclassified into another district classified into a rural residential district?
I believe so, yes. Either rural residential or rural residential reserve, which I answered.
Okay. Thank you. And I would also ask that until that map is available for the general public, the vote shouldn't happen until everybody has a chance to see.
I'll respond to that this way. We've had 3, 4, 5 hearings on this. It has been posted according to the law, and that's all we can do on our end. And it's not required to be on the town's website. It's not required by law that it's there. It should be there, but it's not required by law. Brandon.
So if the meetings are held by Zoom, you're not required to provide all of the materials to people participating by Zoom?
I didn't say that. I said I think not by law. I don't believe so. No, we're not required to have a Zoom meeting. Hang on now, Brandon.
I just want to make two comments. The first is it's now available on the select board page and the planning commission page. That was just done. The second comment, I think the past couple of meetings in my town manager reports, I've disclosed that all of these documents are available upstairs in the town office. So all of these documents have been available upstairs, and we have had folks come in and take a look.
And I also think in response to public notice, we actually brought it up at the last meeting and talked about the fact that this was happening again at this meeting. I believe that you'll find that in the minutes as well.
I have seen it on the internet. I just pulled it up. Mine was maybe Martel.
Yep.
I know I have seen it before. I'm not very tech savvy, but I just did pull it up the way that you
Awesome.
said it. If you just
Okay.
type in code-
So the map has been made, excuse me, the map has been made available on the town website. It is there now.
Could you please say again where it is so that I could pull it up, please?
In the search bar, if you type proposed zoning map,
In the search bar, type in zoning map.
Thank you.
And in addition to that, Ms. Hindinger, you can go to the select board page, and on the left-hand column, you'll see a couple of links, and you'll see proposed zoning district map, and the same is true on the planning commission page.
I also want to point out that this map actually was adopted in 2017 and is in the town plan. Paul?
You're 95% right on that one.
Yes. I know, there are a few changes.
Right, and just to let people know that this is pretty much 95% replica of the map, that the future land use map that was adopted in the town plan. So it's all been available side by side because they're both in there. The only little changes that we did was in some of the village area. We changed a little bit of the village area in Ascutney, and actually in the definitions of what we did is took from 1 acre down to half acres in the villages to allow, there's a lot of non-conforming lots that were in Perkinsville, and like I said, if you look, we've looked. Well, let me back up for a second here too. One of the other things I wanted to comment was a lot of the stuff that we've done here too. I haven't been on the board as long as Mike has, but I don't know, 6 years I've been on the planning commission. But anyways, this has been something that was kind of already there even when I came in a little bit. But we've had studies done. We've had some roundtable groups, the previous town manager and others that we pulled from information that the townspeople themselves were supposed to get together and do. And I don't know if anybody remembers any of those roundtables, but things that came out of it were, what does the town people want? What do we need here? And a lot of it is housing, like Mr. Fuller talked about. So we were pulling from those things, not just sitting on the board, like I said, saying, well, this is what we feel. Trying to pull from those. We've really enhanced and tried to promote the PUDs. People didn't like the wording of cluster housing, but to try to keep a lot of that rural area here, but still be able to have housing, because I think anybody's going to admit that one of the toughest things right now is there's no housing. I mean, we've had a town manager trying to find a house in Weathersfield for how long? 2 years?
A while, yeah.
I mean, I guess if anybody's got one, rentals, all that stuff. So we're trying to figure out how to make this happen. And one of the things that you want to do is you want to start obviously with your village area. This is where your centers are. This is where you're going to have maybe some smaller storefronts or some of the houses and stuff. And then you're going to work your way out. Honestly, the conservation stuff is going to be like farthest out that you're going to have. You wouldn't, you want those to reflect the things that you want to keep in the town and not necessarily restrict development based on that. So, like I said, this map is, like Mr. Todd said, it's been around since 2017. I do apologize as the chair of the planning commission right now that it wasn't available online. I'm a little bit more savvy on getting on here with some things, so where I go look, I think is probably not as generally accessible maybe for the public, so that's also on me too. But in the future, we need to make sure that this stuff is out there a lot more. But everything was properly warned, and like I said, this same map was here in front of the select board for a public hearing, what, a year ago?
Yes.
Yeah,
A year ago.
so it's the same, nothing changed on it from a year ago when we were gonna have a public hearing here. There were some issues then, and
Well, I agree with that, except for, we did, some of the changes, again, like you said, in the villages.
The overlay,
But
the
nothing in the conservation district
No.
has changed from what it was in the town plan map that's been available since 2017.
but agreeing with Mr. Todd, if I may here, is we don't wanna make any rash decisions either, but I think, I mean, this has been going on for years, and we do want to get everybody's comments and questions. And then, again, the board here has a decision, they can vote on it, they can table it and leave the hearing open, or they can send it to the voters, so those are the three options that we have here.
That is correct. Dave? Anything?
I'm presuming that the application of zoning bylaws are still going to apply within the location of where the primary household is that still going to remain intact? A lot of people here are getting rezoned. So where a district cuts a property, where do the zoning bylaws apply to that? Does it remain where the homestead is?
Yeah, we didn't actually go in and change any lines, any district lines. The Regional Planning Commission, when they created this map, basically they went back to like that, I don't wanna say they went back to the 1995 map, because that's not what they did. They looked at what we had and they marked what should stay in conservation. And the outlines, you're gonna have to look at the map and see what the zoning district is, and whatever the zoning district is on this map, once it's adopted, is the zoning that will apply to whatever that district is.
But a lot of properties are cut by different districts.
Yes.
So an application for a zoning permit is gonna make a big difference in what district use you're in. So what district use applies when a property is cut in half?
Well, that exists now. My property's like that.
That's my point, it hasn't changed.
No.
Now, you said just a minute ago that you haven't changed the district lines? You certainly did.
Well, we certainly did,
is
because
entirely
they're not,
different
yeah,
That's not a true statement.
that's correct. Yeah, I
I'll have that
apologize.
entirely scratched from this conversation. You did
Yes,
move district
yes.
boundaries
Yes, we did.
by a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, 80% was conservation and now it's not. So you're right. Paul?
Yeah, what Dave was talking about too is, it's already there now, there's already issues with, we didn't go in, and we actually had a conversation and talked about that, and, to take somebody's property and actually take the whole piece and put it all in one, instead of having.
That's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question that you just asked is really, no, we didn't do that, and we're not any worse off than we were before. People will still have some of the same issues. You don't have to come in and redo anything that you've done. But one of the things, though, that if you look at, C10 is the most restrictive zoning district that we have, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why some people like it.
That's good. But when anything that's on here now, if your property changed, it's gonna change in a less restrictive way. You're gonna be able to do more with your property than you were before, correct?
I have to overlay the map as it stands now.
Well, no, the
But
C10 is the most restrictive.
Correct.
So when it gets changed, usually you should be able to have more if we want housing, if we want that. Industrial's different, all this. Most of this area is done for that.
When 3.5 now moves way over into C10 in those restrictions.
Well, that's different if that happened, but most of the time, that's gonna be a small percentage compared to what happened, because the 80% to 20% opposite way.
Where I am is 1-1 now. When this gets adopted, it goes to 3-5. So there's trade-offs all over the place.
Now, if I may, the one thing I do really want to make sure that we capture here is, though, is anybody that's got a specific question as far as, or a specific comment on these changes. In other words, this is going to be detrimental due because of this, that maybe wasn't thought of for some reason, or those kind of things. Not, we've had a lot of general conversation. I would like anything that's specific that we can write down questions for.
Mr. Fuller?
Any one of these changes isn't requiring landowners to do anything.
No.
You can have a 100-acre parcel in C1, which is 1 acre zoning, and keep it 1 acre zoning. Bernard Morrow's farm in Perkinsville is all 1 acre zoning. 90 acres. They just put the 5-acre solar field there. It's all 1 acre zoning.
And if you own 10 acres, you could actually go in and change your deed and say it can never have more than one house on it.
I don't know, it's not requiring, any zoning is not requiring landowners to make a decision. It doesn't require that at all. You could keep it in whatever you choose to keep the whole thing in one big entity if you choose to do that. You got a hand up behind you.
Ryan?
So Act 171 is an act that talks about forest blocks and fragmentation and tries to address those issues. And throughout the town plan, it talks about BioFinder and the different tiers. Some of the language is conservation, BioFinder Tiers 5 conservation areas should be managed to preserve the functionality in existing large continuous forest habitat blocks and connecting areas that serve as habitat corridors. It also says development will be designated and sited on locations, patterns, and densities which do not substantially reduce the productivity or fragment the area of these lands. And then it also says, while development may be allowed in these BioFinder tiers 1 through 3 areas, great care is required to maintain a very low density, prevent fragmentation, and ensure that the functionality of these habitat blocks continues. So my question is, how were those BioFinder maps used in laying out the districts? And were forest blocks and connectors identified at the time?
I'm going to say yes to that, and it was Jason Rasmussen that did this.
Okay, so as I look at the map, it's hard for me to understand where certain districts were, why they were put in those places. It seems like a lot of the conservation district was put in places of steep slope or proximity to wetlands or something like that. But they're all sort of fragmented pieces. So it doesn't seem like it really addresses the fragmentation issues.
I think there are, as Mr. Fuller had pointed out, layers of other protections that do.
Mm-hmm.
There are steep slope regulations, there are wetland regulations, there are deer yard regulations, there are agricultural soil regulations. I mean, there's just layer upon layer upon layer of things that you have to get through when doing, first of all, a subdivision, which is what's going to fragment the larger lots, if that's what you so choose to call it. But that doesn't mean it's going to fragment a wildlife corridor.
No,
those things are being looked at by the Conservation Commission,
right,
and Fish and Game.
So is there any record of where these forest blocks and connectors are? I understand there's lots of different things that could prevent development, but is it laid out in a way that it's all tied together systematically?
I believe zoning, regional planning has that map, and we use that at the Planning Commission when doing a subdivision.
The BioFinder maps?
Yes, well, don't put words in my mouth.
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's like I said, there's layers and layers of maps that we refer to on these.
Okay, but you can't point to, on this map, where those are located?
I can't, no.
No, that's what I would like to be able to. And know where those are.
I would sit down with Jason Rasmussen at Regional Planning. I'm sure he could guide you in that. That would be good. Because you're at our table as well as theirs.
And I do, I think there might be a couple more questions, but
Go ahead, I lost my.
Okay, Todd?
So Todd Hinlinger, I just have maybe a couple of quick comments about the map. My comments would be simple, and that is that there'll be some practical changes to how easy it is to develop, or the number of dwellings that you can fit. And I like Dave started with what is a pretty good example, and what strikes me as important, if we took that same 50 acres that what Dave was talking about, and presuming, I don't know every piece of land you own, Dave, but if your land is now on Plains Road, and you have 50 acres, if you did a PUD, you could do 5 houses. So you could end up with a little development that looks just like the commons that we were talking about before. But if, with the zoning that we have right now, if you do that same PUD, you would have more than 3 times that number in the same 50 acres. So you could you'd be talking about 15 to 17 houses. So that's the effect of the change in one specific example, that you'll be able to achieve much higher density in those areas that flip from C10 to rural residential pre-5. That's gonna happen, and that's a fact of the map that we have. I think that's my main comment about this change. I would always have liked to participate throughout the whole process, but that change in increasing the density, I don't think that will have any effect on affordability relative to the effect it will have on the amount of development that we will potentially be facing. So my personal opinion is that I'm not in favor of the change because of that. That's the map. Now, I do have some technical questions about the zoning bylaw changes. So do we want to finish with the map and move to the bylaws?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
I mean, I just don't want to change.
I don't want to shift gears either. I want to stay with the map and then we can come into the bylaw language.
I remembered my question.
Okay.
So it does seem that there are so many questions about this map. What would have been helpful is to have two-sided with the existing map and the proposed map, and with definitions spelled out so that people would be able to understand it more easily. I believe that I was on the zoning board and the Conservation Commission in the late 80s and 90s when we were doing the town plan for 1994, and the Conservation Commission at that time, there would not have been biofinder maps online, but we did talk to people, and we were talking, many of those C10 plus had to do with the wildlife corridors. And so I'm not in favor of this change, exactly for the reason that Mr. Hindiger said, and also because I liked the fact that 80% of the town was designed to maintain as much wildlife and open space as we could. I think that's what Weathersfield's strength is. I remember too now, unfortunately for you, is that I didn't like the town plan that was proposed and adopted in 2017. So the fact that we've been having these discussions since 2017 doesn't cut any cheesecake with me, I guess.
Well, you ought to say something to the guy right beside you that voted for it.
I
Sorry, John.
Representative John Harrison. This will be part of my report later, but it fits in, it's appropriate. Now, one of the emphasis that's been with the state for quite some time is to encourage development in the village centers. We have 2 designated village centers, we're sitting in one, the other one's over in Perkinsville. When zoning was put in 72, we followed a New Jersey format, which this map, I think, looks more like the old New Jersey format. And all you gotta do is drive through I don't hate to. use Norwich as an example. You go down their back roads, it's housed 500 feet, housed 500 feet, and it consistently does that. A bill that anything I say tonight probably hasn't been signed by the governor, but a bill that passed both houses gives significant financial grants and tax incentives for housing to be created within the village centers. I guess I'll ask it as a question, and to be fair, I realize that you wouldn't have had this bill available during the planning process, but do you feel that the two village centers are being treated as having more residential development?
Yeah, we're reducing them both down to half-acre zoning for greater density.
What, you got half acre?
Yeah, in the villages, yes.
Well, no, let me, if I may, let me rephrase that. Right now, it's 1 acre.
Right.
All right, if this goes through, both Perkinsville and Escutney, the area that you can see that's shaded here for village, will be a half acre. For that exact purpose of helping with density, helping with, you know, issues that were pre-existing where, I mean, Perkinsville's got a lot of places where their septics are failing and everything else, and they can't put any more in. And so now you don't need as much for your lot. So, like I said, I don't know, it's hard, it's hard because we need a lot more.
In Perkinsville, the change in 95 that made them 1 acre zoning, made like 70% of the village non-conforming. And which is, even Graham Hunter, God bless him, said that didn't make sense when that happened.
And then our thought process is, I know obviously none of us are trained in, I mean, I'm electrical engineering, but I did a lot of research on this, and obviously it makes sense. You start with village, you work yourself out, R1, so on and so forth. You want to keep those densities in, and then as you get farther out in areas. So that's why some of the stuff changed a little bit, but at least in the village, Escutney area and things of that nature.
If I can just throw one quickie in, because I'm going to go off track from what you're talking about. It goes down to what I've been saying about the ARPA money and how the town so far has shown an inclination to spend it. Because without water and sewer, this half acre thing is a waste of money.
The reason, I seem to recall that the reason that we went to 1 acre lots in the villages was because the type of soil would not support a denser population or a denser development. I seem to recall that happening. And I'm pretty sure that I'm remembering this
So
accurately.
I don't know about Perkinsville, but you got nothing but sand out here. This is the ideal best place for a septic.
Not entirely true.
No,
I think
no,
Tom
I-
would back me up on that because it goes right straight down instead of being perked out. Anyway, that's off the subject,
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that.
off the hearing.
Oh, I was gonna actually mention, because I don't know if you remember that it was 1 acre, it was half-acre lots when the developer first went in.
Yep.
And then when we were going through the process, it changed, after we had the plans all done, that's when it changed from half-acre to 1 acre.
Correct.
And I don't remember if that was due to septic or whatever.
It was.
And so, I mean, and some of it does seem a little confusing because now we have a huge source protection plan for our water and our wells. And the town, up to this point, hasn't moved forward with septic to protect those wells. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't think, and also at this point, we've already, a lot of the land has been developed into 1 acre lots, so nobody's going back and changing that because the house is set in the center of 1 acre lots. But if there was something that was usable for half acre, I understand why people want to do that.
Oh,
You do need more
spoke to a bunch,
development.
So go ahead
I
and
know.
finish up. Go ahead, Wendy, you finish
So I
up.
do understand why people want to be able to do more development, but at this point, I mean, I think already it's harder to do.
Agreed.
Howard,
You know, one of the things that's part of the aquifer protection ordinance that we've adopted is specifically states in areas where you are over wellhead or within that protection area, it's minimum 1 acre zone. So even though we've reduced in acreage in some of the villages to try to address the density issue, try to promote more workforce housing by making lots more affordable, in the areas where it has the potential for a negative impact on the water supply, which are shown on the map, those cross-hatched areas on there, that is a minimum 1 acre zoning.
GPOD.
The determination has been made that anything with a septic density of higher than that causes a decrease in water quality. So hopefully that'll sort of answer part of that concern.
I don't think so. I don't think it addresses the concern in the villages. If I'm understanding your answer, but we can talk about that.
Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Mary Goldbranson. Just a maybe clarification or confirmation and then check it in. So if I understand, the yellow areas on the proposed zoning map, Conservation 10 essentially sounds and looks like it's wetlands and ledges and non-developable land? Is that correct?
To some degree, yes, but not entirely, yet no.
Would you say majorities can't be developed? 'Cause
I think there's development in much of it, actually, already.
it's looking like the majority of residential areas would all allow development in the 1 to 5 acre
Mhm.
range. And there's not much property that would actually be residential conservation.
There isn't a residential conservation. There's C10.
Rural residential, I guess. So that leads to my comment would be, I would love to see us focus on development within the village areas, especially in rural villages, and allow the rural character to be maintained with the larger lots of land in the rural areas.
As I look at this map, and I recall some of what Ryan was bringing up, which is the wildlife corridors. The main wildlife corridor, if you look at the top of the map, the 2 big yellow sections at the top, that's basically Mount Escutney and getting into the town forest.
Which is state land?
Huh?
Is that all state land?
Well, on the right-hand side is the town forest. Right, John? So down through that whole middle, and you have ridges out through there. So even though it's like, it shows what's in conservation, those are probably lower level, and they're not affected by like height restrictions. Above 1,500 feet, you can't do anything. So you get up in there. So it's not going to fragment in some ways the wildlife corridor. It shows what's in conservation. To stay in conservation, it drops down below 1,500 and it keeps that in conservation. The other areas aren't necessarily in conservation because they don't need to be.
In addition, I seem to recall, and this is from several years ago, discussion about maintaining views.
You know, that's a great conversation that we need to be having right now at the Planning Commission with everybody. And that has to do with, and this is going to be very brief, solar installations. We're going over maps now that are coming down from the state that are identifying where you can put solar systems, where's the best places for windmills in the town. And they want language and stuff created from the Planning Commission to support that stuff coming into town. Again, I want to be careful how I say this, but this is not going to create the havoc and the mayhem that people, I think, are fearing. I see more of that coming from the solar push and where this stuff is gonna be. You're gonna have, because these are almost all 5 acre or larger systems that they wanna put in. They're huge. And they're gonna cut down forests to do this. 5 acres minimum for a 500 kilowatt system. We've got a few, and we've been handling where to put them pretty good in this town so far. But that's on our table right now with the planning commission, which is really important. Paul?
And I just wanted to quickly comment on something. People have said a lot about the septics, and the town should really look into this and should look into that and use ARPA money and stuff. You've already contacted both Springfield and Windsor, correct?
Yes.
In regards to using ARPA money, is there enough ARPA money right now, if we spend every bit of it, to put in a solid waste or system for the whole town?
No, that wouldn't even put a dent in it.
Not even close, right?
No, not even
So
close.
it's not a push that all this ARPA money is gonna, now, you could use some of it if there's some grants out there and utilize that, but it's not. Is Windsor even willing, do they want anything to do with helping bring any system down through? No?
No.
Springfield want anything to do?
If they did have the capacity, it would go to the nursing home.
Not us.
And in Springfield, there are discussions about going to the airport, but they're concentrating on their downtown revitalization plan.
So we've already been that route here.
Yeah.
We don't have options there. So the next option is create our own facility here. You think you got enough people here now, you start telling them we're gonna put a solid waste facility in this town and pay for it.
And whose backyard's that gonna end up in?
So we have done, and John, you've been here for a lot of this too, we have done the best we can do to try to get that figured out here, and we cannot do it right now, unless you've got some bill or something that's coming up that's gonna help us more.
I think Todd will back me up on this. You develop at least a basic plan, so when the money, if and when the money becomes available, then you're ready to take advantage of it. You're absolutely right. The users cannot afford a $5 million plan in either village.
But how are you, well, how are you going to address the failing individual septic systems in Perkinsville, for instance?
I don't.
You can't say, it seems to me that you want two things that are antithetically opposed to one another. You want growth, but you don't want the infrastructure that will support that growth. I think that having 3 to 5 acre lots rather than 10 acre lots does nothing to address affordable housing because for three reasons. One is the cost of developing a 5 acre lot is the same as developing a 10 acre lot. You've got to put in power, you've got to build your own driveway, all of those things that you don't have to worry about if you're building a house in the village. The villages could get bigger. They don't have to have the parameters that they have now. You were saying that there are so many 1 acre lots in the state, and already we couldn't have any more. But we could make the village a little bit bigger. We could be developing on Cemetery Road or along Tenny Hill Road. But the other thing is that if you live as we do, there are other costs that are not directly related to your property, but that if you're living off Weathersfield Center Road, you have to have a vehicle that can get you to work, and that vehicle is going to be much more expensive than the little vehicle you can get away with if you're living in the village areas. I think that it would be really nice to see, and I've been to all of those meetings when Ed Morris was here, where people were supposed to come in and say what they want in the villages. And what I'm feeling from you guys is that there are a lot of people here saying, we like the character of the town as it is now. We would like to see growth in the villages. Growth belongs in the villages, but it sounds like you have your minds made up, even though this is a
Well, if I may, my mind's not made up. My mind has been focused on this since I got on the planning commission 6 years ago. So it made up is not the right word. It's hyper focused on this is what we've been doing. As a volunteer, and.
But there's a starting point to that, Paul.
Well, yeah, no, but I wanted to comment too, if I could just back. Nowhere did we say that changing this is going to make building a house more affordable. It's going to make it.
Isn't that your purpose? I understood that that was the
not,
purpose of this.
not all affordable. It's gonna make it easier to build houses in places that need to be built. I don't know if it's also affordable, just like you said. It's not gonna take and be able to, like, cut the cost of a building in half. I mean, the building, like you just said, is gonna cost the same whether you're on 5 acres or whether you're on 10 acres. But when you have the C10 area and it's restricted to the point that it is, like Dave was saying, needing all this frontage from back foot, you know, there's how much road frontage you can have based on what you can
all
have,
of
right?
that. So the 3 to 5 doesn't decrease those costs either.
No, in the village did grow some in the Scutney, it changed some, but
But the 3 to 5 does reduce the cost of a lot that you can build on.
I don't think it makes a significant difference.
I would disagree with that.
I absolutely disagree with that. We are trying to purchase a smaller section of land. I mean, not everybody has a ton of money to buy 100 acres, 500 acres, whatever, 10 acres. If we can buy 5 acres and build a house on it in Weathersfield, pay Weathersfield taxes, that would be very beneficial for us.
Another, you know, how about if you look at it this way, if an acre's $2,000, you buy 3.5 acres, that's what, $7,000? How much is 10 acres? $20,000. That's a big difference. That is a big difference.
so the land affordable, the house is still gonna cost the same.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
We're behind you, Mike.
Even in this little group of people, there's some pretty varied opinions. And I can see that you guys have been putting a lot of time into this, and I appreciate that. Not just this effort, but I'm glad you guys are willing to volunteer for this town. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you.
But
Thank you.
I do have a thought. Unless there's some immediate need to solve this tonight, my thought is, would you entertain a proposal to write up an addendum to our town report for the vote next year, the town vote next year, so that the voters see the pluses and the minuses? I've heard mostly pluses from you guys, and maybe that's a result of all your study, but I haven't heard all those studies. This is my first night. I've got my own opinions, and I kind of like to see those two lists together and vote on it. This is a big change for the town.
Let me give you an idea of where this comes from. 2010, we had the zoning petitions to remove zoning in their entirety from this town. And I played a big part in that. As we all know, as anybody that was involved here then knows. It didn't mean that I didn't want zoning, but we had issues with our zoning and zoning administration, and leave it at that. Result of those petitions, which failed in a vote by the people, that did go before the people, and it failed by like 100 votes, almost 200 votes. 100 votes would have gone, maybe swung it the other way. So it was about 200 votes. But what followed that were meetings by the planning commission in the 5 little boroughs that we have in town. That were very well attended. 40, 50 people in the meetings, where we assembled all of this data and wrote the town plan that this is in, that this came from, that Patty doesn't like. It came from all the people that went to those meetings. And the planning commission didn't just go one direction. We took all of that data and processed it together and tried to find common ground as much as we could. Again, working in a pretty major vacuum following those meetings. But that's how we got to the town plan that directs us. The town plan brings you to the zoning bylaws. The zoning bylaws are the implementation tool for the town plan that was created.
So you're positive that this plan represents what the general population in this town wants the town to look like in another 10,
Let me
50
say,
years.
let me say it a different way. I'm positive that I had more input than I'm getting tonight that supports that town plan and what we've done.
Okay. Are you still willing to delay it another couple months and put it before the voters?
Not really. Personally, no. And I'll tell you why. We've had 3 hearings on this. We've spent almost 5 years working on it.
Do you trust the voters?
Do I trust the voters?
Yeah.
They voted for me. Do you trust the voters? Yes, of course I trust the voters.
I have one last question regarding C10, and I'm gonna stop. On this upper section, all this yellow, that's all C10.
Yes.
How much of that has road frontage?
Up, all this up here?
Yeah. 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why is it C10?
It's the town.
Doesn't have road frontage.
It's all, why is it C10? It's in conservation because it's the state, it's the town forest and the state
All
land.
that's left is all these things that are already split. You're really not giving anybody who wants to come to Weathersfield the opportunity to live in the C10 district.
That's not true. There's a whole bunch of C10 down, all down in here. Do you want people, I don't think the state's gonna allow anybody to build a house on the side of a Scotty Mountain, and I don't think we want them to do it in the middle of the town forest up there. Do we?
I think your statement that it's town forest and state park, the state park barely goes into Weathersfield. A lot of that belongs, most of what's up there is private.
And it's in conservation. It is, whether it's by trust or by zoning or what, it's in conservation.
That's by the landowner.
That's 450 acres.
Decision, not the town.
I'm not sure I'm following you, Dave.
I'm just a little confused that, and I'm kind of supporting the land use comment earlier, that all of the C10 stuff, call it state, call it what you want. There's not a lot in that area at all, actually. That's all ridge, that's all swamp, that's all ridge. I mean, well, only thing that's left is what I consider a very small portion that's left in C10 that would allow people to live in a C10 district if they choose to. And are those districts within properties that have a minimum of 10? A lot of these properties are cut into RR 3.5. So where's the definition of a minimum of 10 acres anymore?
Yeah, would there be any residential property that had a minimum of 10?
That's buildable, residential, that has road frontage. I don't see a lot. That's just my comment.
I didn't create these districts that you see. This was created by the regional plan.
So be it, but whoever did this still has to have or offer the opportunity for people to live in specific districts that is accessible. And I don't know, I like personally to see that. Where can I go?
Dave?
Well, that's gonna depend on the deed and the property, Dave. I mean, we have those all over town, what district they would be in. We have them now, what district that would be in. So, I don't know what to do tonight. There's a couple of options to do. I'm not in favor of, this hearing's been warned. We could continue the hearing to the next meeting, a date certain. to gather more information, to allow these people to go home, to think about what their concerns are, to come back to the next hearing if they chose to create an overlay map perhaps that would be like a template to put over this to see exactly what the heck's going on, where. But I've got a couple of points to make after listening here for like a half an hour. How many people in this room are farmers? You know, I worked my whole life and didn't get paid, and that was my choice. But farmers historically have relied on their real estate when they get done. Got to go to a nursing home or something. And to pass that kind of a property on to a younger person that may want to farm would take an enormous amount of financing if we go down the road like that does now, because creating or keeping larger parcels require a lot more money. And we're living in that right now because I've got some comparables of properties that are right next to me that frankly is kind of scary. Farmers have historically been able to carve off properties for the people that either work for them. We can look at it all throughout the town where parcels had thoughtfully have gone through the planning board. And that's what this would do as well. For subdivisions have to go through the planning board. And they could, like I said before, they have to follow the subdivision regulations that are a lot tighter now than they were. I didn't go to any of the hearings or didn't know anything about it in 1994 when this map got enacted on me. And it took me by surprise and affected every piece of property that I've got in town. It torpedoed me, my ability, to put lots of property in C10 that was in 3 to 5. And I don't like it. But that's making me vote on this again? Not necessarily. But I do think that we need to methodically be able to grow the town grand list in the amount that we're growing and allow some housing. I don't necessarily agree that the answer is to go down to the villages to half-acre sites, because I'm agreeing with Wendy. When these houses get put on a 1 acre lot and they're in the center of 1 acre, remember what I said about the restrictions that are going to happen with setbacks to water and septic that have changed and evolved since 1994. You wouldn't be able to subdivide that to have 2 half-acre lots. It's not going to be possible through the planning process. I don't know whether there's going to be any more comments, but I'm willing to make a motion to continue the hearing and gather more information. I think that's probably the right thing to do for tonight.
I want to hold off, I want to hold off on that motion at this time, because I do recall Mr. Hindinger had some questions about.
This has nothing to do with the map, this is just
zoning.
specific to the language, it's in the zoning, if we could just give me a couple minutes.
Yes, I was coming back to you.
I don't mean to be frustrating, I mean to be helpful. So I just had two. One is in the definitions. Before we had an inn or a small motel, right, where we set a number on that. The old language definitions had the small hotel. And I think now when we look at it, the definitions are similar enough that although we call for an inn or a small motel in some of the districts and allow a motel in others, the effect of the definitions is to make them exactly the same. So I would like to suggest the Planning Commission consider setting a number of units in the inn small hotel so that there is a difference between an inn that we will get in Perkinsville, Scutney, or one that would be placed right next to the highway, for example. So the inn small hotel is an establishment providing for a fee 3 or more guest rooms, and then a motel is 3 or more guest rooms. And so I would suggest that if we do want to have a different criteria for the small hotel and the allowed uses in different districts, that we set a definition to match that.
I thought we addressed that already.
I believe that's how it reads right now.
Three or more.
It's possible the language hasn't come through for approval, but I believe we've addressed that already. Based on that, I don't want to be careful how I say that, but the conversations we had previously.
We talked about it before, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at it in this.
Yeah, I understand that, but we did not ignore those conversations. Howard, you recall the discussions we had on that stuff?
Yeah.
And
I wanted to make sure there were a proper scale for the small village.
yeah, because what is the, what is it, a Scutney House that's over here? Has, I think, 24 rooms in it, or was it 18 or something like that? John, you remember? Actually, I think it's either 16 or 18 rooms, and we set that as a maximum. And why should anything be any bigger than something that already exists, if that's in keeping with the character of the village? And so, isn't that the conversation we had had?
Right.
So
those numbers have been talked about and created. We'll finish that up, Todd.
Okay, and then another comment, and I'm not sure if it's just a typo or if you're doing this intentionally, but historically, and in the zoning bylaws we have now, for those uses that aren't residential uses other than residential uses, we have a site plan review, and for conditional use hearings, we would have, the zoning board would have a conditional use hearing. And the benefit of having a site plan review is for any use that's not residential, then either the zoning administrator or the ZBA will get a plan, and you just go through the zoning bylaws and check. Do they have the lighting plan? Do they have a stormwater plan? Do they have parking? Blah, blah, check for the site plan review. And in almost all of the new language that's been added, wherever it says, for example, new, the asterisk that would require site plan review isn't included. So what would happen, if, for example, in the village, if you came in and you said, I want to do a small enterprise, you would need to do site plan review. There would be general and special provisions, and you'd need a certificate of occupancy. But if you came in and you said, I want to do a restaurant or a 6-unit housing development, those are permitted uses that would not require any site plan review, certificate of occupancy, or any general or special provision.
By the zoning board. It doesn't mean there isn't review.
It
means it's not reviewed by.
This document does not require review without those asterisks there. I didn't say who was doing it. I said the zoning administrator or the zoning board. In either case, you would still have to have a site plan review. But this document doesn't require it for those new things that are added. That's what I'm saying. Most of the old items that were there before do have an asterisk, a 1, a 2, and a 3, so that the administration, be it whoever is doing the administration, can be assured that they're going to get those documents to check. And I think that you mean to have those in here, but by them being absent, there are some things where we have looked at them before and we have not done a site plan review because it didn't have that number.
Yeah, okay.
That's my comment. It goes through all of these. It's most noticeable in the increase in some, like the village district. It jumps out the most because so many things that are new have been put into permitted use, and so many things that were a conditional use have been moved up into permitted use. And I'm not interested in even hashing out what any of those are, so much as I think the town should reserve the ability to have site plan review and a conditional use review.
I know that some things moved out of conditional use. But I'm not sure that means we shouldn't have at least some sort of site review. I would agree with you there. A conditional use review involves a conditional use permit, which is going to be a conditional use review. And those,
right. So
that didn't change.
So
but
for a restaurant, for example, the zoning board wouldn't get the chance to say, as a condition of this, we want to make sure that you have a valet parking on Friday nights. That would be like a condition that might show up. But still, you would want to have a site plan review for anything other than a residential parking. Because we've got, as things have popped up that aren't, they're residential, we're used to that. Things that have popped up now in town, there was obviously no site plan review, and there's gonna be challenges because of that. That's it, that's my comment.
I would appreciate it if you would create a list of those and get them over to Paul at the planning commission.
Sure.
That you'd like us to review there. Any other comments? Paul?
Just the last quick one. Can the ZBA make conditions on things that aren't in a bylaw?
No. Conditions on something that's not in a bylaw? Well, yes and no. Because the zoning board is given latitude within the zoning bylaws to determine what something is and where it might fit. And that gives them great latitude. It does.
I know, we might want to take a look at that.
Yeah. But
When we do this.
In general, there's nothing that I could think of that we would put in there that isn't in the bylaws. We're pretty
Okay.
much going, we're reading from the bylaws and only referencing those items.
Okay. And I'm guessing that somehow in copying and moving and rewriting these definitions, that those things get dropped unintentionally. I don't know. I'm guessing that's what happened.
Yeah, I noted it, we'll look at it.
So, yeah, if you'd get that list. Dave, did you have something else you wanted to add just a second ago? Did I see you?
I just want to question, no, it wasn't a motion, but I just want to question Mr. Foley.
I was gonna go back to that.
I'll wait.
You want to ask him a question?
No, I'll wait to see the results of the next conversation.
Are there any other comments at this time on the hearing, in the hearing? We have a motion, I believe, on the floor to continue the hearing at this time.
Yes.
And you had some specific requests. You want those included in the
Well, I listened to a few people's concerns, and it would be helpful. I'm not sure who can assemble that. And, you know, first of all, the process to warn this hearing costs the town money.
Yes.
And it is a process. I can't remember, what is it, 30 days or 45 days? It had to be in newspapers and so forth and so on, right?
Not less than 15, not more than 120.
After the planning board had considered all this stuff. So it's a process. So.
And they had to do the same thing.
Yeah, so I just want to inform everybody what I think is true here in the room. Continuing this hearing doesn't mean that there'll be a decision at the next meeting. We could file another continuance as well, or not, or whatever. So it's the process of hearings. So I heard before some questions about where, like, for instance, C10s are, to what Dave's point was about roads or so on and so forth. So, and I've spoken to you guys before at our meetings within the last year when we were going to warn this, and it got sidetracked when I was the chair as well. So this has been going on for a long time. That I thought it would be helpful to have a template that would show, for instance, all, not only, so you got to take the whole picture of the whole town and absorb it all before you either go, no, I don't want this, or yes, I do want this. And for instance, what I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of conserved land in Weathersfield through land trusts. Doesn't show on here. Doesn't matter what zone it's in. There's a lot of deed restrictions that I'm not sure we'll ever be able to find because they're located in the vault on everybody's thing. So you may have, for instance, across the street from me, there's a deed restriction that says you can't put any, like, mobile homes on there. That was passed through as a deed restrictions. I know up the road from me, there's a couple of parcels, one that's 20 acres, I think one that's 12, that says you can only have one house on it forever. Those are in the deeds. Doesn't matter what zoning is in Weathersfield. I'm not sure that we can ever do that, but as much information that we could gather to put it over the top of this. Put the 94 map over the top of this. And I don't know if you can do it from a screen.
We've actually done it before. Yeah, we can do it from a screen because we have transparent overlays, and they're huge.
So one of the other things that just popped up, I don't know whether Dave, he's had a lot of good points. You know, Is it too steep or is it not? Is there a topography map that would show where
Yes.
these zones are, that would
Yeah.
show from whatever's going on? I don't know, because I haven't seen it.
There's 7 or 8 maps, is that right?
Yeah, there's at least.
At least it has, the map that's on the website has topography. You can turn on that layer.
Yep.
No, but we have them, and we had them when we were working on all this stuff down here at the planning commission. It's, again, this wasn't something that we just cooked up.
Oh, this
That
isn't
was a
that,
lot
this
of work.
is, this is all done back from 2017,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Can I question the motion?
Yes.
Are we not gonna continue the balance of the agenda?
No, we're going to continue the balance of the agenda, but the first thing we're gonna do is
Okay.
get through the motion on the floor, which is to continue the hearing.
Yes.
That's the first thing we have to resolve.
I think if there's enough time, one of the things that Jason and I were gonna go over is updating our town GIS map that includes all of these different pieces of data. It's all state data you can get on the A&R Atlas, but there's a slope layer, and there's we wanna put the Liz Thompson Significant Natural Communities layer on it, and all those different restrictions, the deer wintering area. So if there's enough time, we can put it all together on the town's GIS map, and then we can sit down and click through the different slides to see what really is already restricted and what's not.
That will shed a big light on things.
Do you, and I'm trying to get through Robert's rules here, do you think that the continuance of this hearing requires us to continue it at our very next select board meeting, or can it be to a date certain?
It's
Date
date and time specific.
So I suggest, in order to gather enough time in my motion then, what is the second select board meeting in?
Actually, to be honest with you, let me interrupt, I'd prefer to go to the next select board meeting.
Okay.
And if we're not ready, we'll continue it. You know, we can go over what we have and continue it again as needed.
Okay, because I just listened to Ryan, and I don't know how much time everybody has or whatever, so.
But there's enough input and enough discussion, and we've got some answers to get for Todd, or, well, for the planning commission.
Whatever you're comfortable with, I was just trying to be generous, saying to make the motion would be to our second, so we're in the second meeting in May.
What I will do as the chair is I will make sure that Brandon publishes before the next meeting whether we're going to enter into the hearing or just continue the hearing, so people don't have to waste their time coming out for nothing to sit down and hear me say we're going to continue the hearing. I will make sure that that is posted so that people know what's going on. Is that fair enough with everybody? Wendy?
I also was wondering if the people that are here or people that are online, or if we put something out, if they want to submit a letter and their concerns that we can review before the next meeting. I mean, it doesn't have to be just the people that are here, but other people out in the community. If there's some way to just receive letters of what people's concerns are, we would have time to look at it before the meeting.
Yes.
Just a suggestion.
There is a statement in the law that I read that talks about the prerequisite to participate. It means in the hearing. Well, the hearing's getting continued, so it's not just tonight, which comes back to what you were saying. People that come to the next set, the hearing's still open, so if they come to the next meeting, they're still meeting the criteria and the prerequisite to be able to appeal a decision. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Well, participate.
Yes.
What should the motion say there? I want to be really crystal clear about this. So what is the date of the first meeting in June of this board?
June 6th.
6/6.
Then then I'm making a motion that we continue the hearing, continue the public hearing of the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendments in the zoning map until June 6th at 6:45 PM.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to continue the hearing until 6/6/22 at 6:45 PM. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I want to thank everybody for coming out, and we really, really would love to see you all more at the planning commission. Help us out, please. I can't emphasize how important that is.
Tom Leach, laws, whether they be local or state laws, are there to set bare bone minimums. And we said that when I was on the board and so on, that you always follow the rules that are required. But to say that, everything's been posted and listed as required is great. I mean, that is definitely what the town has to do, your obligation as far as noticing. However, as things move on, it should be, and the board could do it at the next meeting, where they can go up above that standard. The state sets minimum standards. This board could set a higher standard for notifying the public through social media, through Front Porch Forum, or other outlets, in addition to what they already do. And I don't mean to make it so tedious that you've got to include all the attachments, maps, or other things, but just a simple notice to, hey, check out our website for, the planning board is looking for volunteers, they're looking for input, they're looking for whatever. I think it would just get out there. I just don't think people are really logging in to go to the town's website every week to see what's coming up. I just think time gets away from us all. We could just do a little blurb. The town has a Facebook account. I don't know if they have any other social media stuff, but just a little blurb. Not a here is what's going on, but it would be great if you participate. We're having the planning board is discussing this. It would be great if you showed up. Something like that.
Actually, when I logged in earlier today, when I open up the homepage for the town's website,
Yeah.
on the right-hand side, you have, what is it, news and business?
Yes, we do.
I kind of hoped I was going to see us there.
Okay.
And it wasn't.
And with those the documents that we're looking at,
Yes.
I mean, Ryan was great, it was nice, he sent them to me because I asked him for.
Right.
But if you just plop them there, you will get traction from people like me who are looking for it.
To me, that seemed to be the most obvious place for them to be on the website, was in that news and what was it, news and business, news and current business, whatever.
Yeah, we will definitely.
You've got that list that's right there on the right. It's a big blog.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. So you're talking
Yes.
about right here?
Yes.
Yeah, so from this point forward, we'll advertise all hearings there and share it on social media.
We have a motion on the floor.
The motion is already voted, it's done.
We didn't vote. We didn't vote.
Yeah, you did.
We did. We didn't? Oh, yeah, I guess we did. That's right, we did, because then I gave the floor. It's been a long day.
Whether or not we voted?
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about, so more than just a hearing though, you wanted like what the planning commission's doing for people to understand, or the select board, or more than the
Just a
hearing?
little teaser
Yeah.
to say,
Would that be an agenda?
it could. I mean, if you've got it already typed up, just copy and paste and bam, there it is.
Okay. Agendas are already online, right?
I
Yeah.
don't think that is good enough. I don't think that will get to the spirit of what I was just saying. If Brandon puts on that news, the agenda, or this is what we're going to talk about, that's not helpful. You guys created that document. It's a wonderful document that we can all read. The zoning map is just one part of that, but all those things that you're working on, just put a page and just plop it on.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think that's where Paul was going. Our agendas are posted under our boards already.
I want to raise.
They're there.
I want to raise.
But no, to what you're saying, you're saying the same thing I was. I expected it to be up there and it wasn't.
So I'm gonna post something this week, and then I'll send it around for people to share it. And if that meets the spirit, let me know, and if it doesn't, let me know, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll leave that one alone.
I got a question.
The spirit. Dave.
Was it, I know I heard you, Dave, said, are we gonna continue the agenda? Was it, and that's just a generic question to everybody around the room, is there some other thing that everybody's interested in tonight to talk,
Yeah,
okay.
the rest of the agenda.
What's
Yeah,
that?
the rest of it.
I know, that's why I was thinking.
I get
it. No, but I didn't know if it was something specific, like ARPA, or,
Yeah,
I don't
one
know.
item.
I don't know.
Okay, moving on with the agenda. Draft townwide building assessments. Thank you, Todd. Brandon? Or
Yeah, just-
is this Brandon or John? Or both of you?
It's both of us. I'll kick it off and then I'll turn it over to John as we go into each of the building assessments. So just to give everybody an overview, for folks that, what's the matter? Oh,
No, I'm not, no.
okay, sorry. The select board requested that we go through each building and conduct an assessment to determine the needs of each building, and to potentially use ARPA funds to make sure that our buildings have what they need to remain long-term. So John Wright from Kingdom Cleaners over there was hired to do these building assessments with us. They were started with Mr. Fuller and I and over at the West Side Fire Department. And we continued throughout the town with Mr. Todd and each department head of each building. So the first building assessment that you'll see in your packet is the 1879 schoolhouse. And the first sheet is a facility information form that basically just goes through some of the details of the building itself. So the 1879 schoolhouse is 2,030 square feet, 143 years old. The replacement value is $687,000. The building envelope is brick and clapboard. The roof is 120 years old, slate.
Hey, guys? Time out, we're in a meeting. Got people talking. Can't have that. Brandon, go ahead.
All right, and basically what we did is we went through each building, we broke it down into sections. So the sections include site systems, the building envelope, interiors, mechanical, structure, fire and life safety, electrical, environmental, offices, and meeting rooms, in addition to ADA. So do you want to take over the 1879 schoolhouse from here, John? Or and discuss some of our high priorities, or? There's,
You've got all my paperwork, but I'll work out my head on. We should get a slater in to test the slate on the roof. I believe it's soft slate, and slate absorbs water and deteriorates over time, so they're thinking there might be 20 years left on it, but not sure. So if you got a slater up there to check it, might be able to assess better how much more life that slate has in it. The pathway from the parking to the new ramp that they put in for handicap, right now it's kind of like a hard pack, kind of rough. They want it to be tar to make it more accessible, easier to travel, I guess. And then the entryway coming in, you'd like to have tarred too for the same reason, because it's just dirt now. We'd like to get that tarred up to the parking and walkway. And I guess most of the windows have been done. So, energy-wise, the basement, it has a few open spots, like most of it's all cement, except there's a few dirt spots on the floor. I'd like to get those covered over to keep, because you just had a big mold remediation there. So obviously moisture got in there and stayed in there. So if we seal that ground off, and there's like 3 areas in there, I think, that needs to be sealed off to keep the moisture down. And then we were thinking to etch the foundation and foam. The foundation that would help keep moisture coming through the rocks and help keep heating there to help heat it a little more. That's a little more costly, but it's something to help keep the air quality in there a little better. Then the other issue was in the
storage room they have like two ceilings. You've got one up, the original ceiling, and then they had another ceiling put in below, and it's it's pretty worn. The lighting's really bad, so I should just take that out and just fix the upper ceiling and put in new light. And one other thing was the underground service that comes in. When you're driving on the road, you can see it on the corner of the building going, what would that be, north? Yeah, going out of Perkinsville, coming through. They just want to take that service and move it around the corner. So it's basically just moving it on the other corner of the building, so it's not visible there from the road. That's kind of more aesthetics, but that's one of the things they asked for.
So
that pretty much completes the 1879 building. I want to ask the board a question. How do you want this to be presented to you? Do you want to hear all of these overviews, or do you want to take some time to look at these? I know John's been sitting here all through that hearing to talk to us. Do you want to just hear the high points of each building, the most severe points at this time? How do you want to go about this? Okay.
Was there on each, and I pushed my screen off and now it's whatever, so I'm going by the fly here, so I'm not that smart. On each proposal, did you guys get a chance to identify the potential costs of the things that you outlined for the building?
So
Started to.
No, that's okay.
I told him to stop because we wanted to kind of go through the high priorities and then have the board let us know what, if you agree with the high priorities, and then from there we would do the estimates on.
Okay, but here's a philosophical question I think we need to get our arms around for the ARPA funds. Are we all gonna be on the same page that the buildings in Weathersfield are the most important thing to focus on the ARPA, or is any other infrastructure? Because where I'm going with this is, there's only $800,000, and I know that that's a really lot of money to me, but not in context to these buildings. You've heard me before say at the last meeting that I think the buildings, and I'm gonna throw a net over all of them, to me, offer the most long-term use of funds for the most residents. Now, we can sort off and say, why don't we study, for instance, the septic in Ascutney, but for the most part, that affects about 300 homes. That means 1,400 homes don't get affected by that single decision. So I'd like to see the cost of each one of these projects, or try to identify what you're talking about. Then I would like to be able to put that to what I wrote down, each building's traffic or use. So just when you think about it, for instance, the highway is pretty heavily used. Martin Hall here is pretty heavily used. So when you, and so the list of the buildings would include what? The 2 fire departments, Martin Hall, the highway garage, the library, the 1879. Is that, have I completed the whole thing?
And there's a couple of buildings over at the transfer station.
Okay, yep, I forgot the transfer station. So then the next question is, I'm just trying to tie the whole thing up in a circle. Would it be, depending on the scale of what we're looking at for improvement, would it then, and the timeline that you're talking about doing it in, would it also be helpful, and I know that the ARPA, when Brandon, you and I first looked at this, that they said that sometimes you can, it is an accepted use of ARPA funds to try to secure more funds.
Yes.
So I don't know what the plans are, for instance, at the highway. I know I've heard roof. I know a roof there is gonna be a really lot of money. So then I don't know the life, or could it be, but the ARPA funds have to be used by what, the end of 2024?
You have to designate by 2024, and then we have up until 2026 to do the project.
For completion, okay, so.
Mike,
What I'm gonna say is pretty important to this discussion,
Oh.
as soon as you recognize me.
And that's why I let you, I'm trying to, yeah.
I'm done because I think that everybody's getting the gist of what we're trying to do. Now, I don't know whether we're in an agreement to use the bulk of this money to try to go to the buildings or not. I don't know that, so.
John, let's get over to John real
I
quick.
was just gonna say one quick thing.
Go.
Just pertaining to what we decided to do with funds and stuff, that as far as leveraging and knowing what, and maybe John's gonna bring something up about this, but there is a lot of value in leveraging
Yes.
and using other grants and so on and so forth. That's,
Like we just seen with the water district.
yeah, it's huge what we can do with it if we could leverage.
Go, John.
There's a bill that passed both houses and it's sitting on the governor's desk with $45 million attached to it for municipal assessment, for assessment of municipal buildings. The emphasis is going to be to get the buildings off of fossil fuels wherever it's feasible, but that isn't the only restriction. The cap on each grant, and this is a straight out grant, you don't even have to match it, is $200,000. So the assessment you did is still has some value, but I'm going to be a little bit critical. You didn't include Efficiency Vermont, and you didn't include labor and industry or fire prevention in going through the buildings. I'm not saying the information you got is wrong, but when I read it, I saw some things that I thought were a little bit. And one thing I'd like to make very clear is that my company didn't put that electric service in, and it looks like crap.
Go ahead, Wendy.
I just wanted to kind of respond to that. When we started looking at the ARPA funding, one of the things that we had discussed is what were we going to look at possibly using for? Well, we had a lot of problems in the buildings, and we knew that there were people that were already looking for money. So I want to say that this is something that this town really could use, is actually at least starting something with the assessments, and then, as you're saying, maybe there were things that weren't included in it, but at least for the first time we have kind of a beginning phase of actually knowing what's going on in all of our buildings.
As far as the bill and the 45 million, you guys are a little bit ahead of the horse, a little bit, the cart's a little bit in front of the horse with it, because it wouldn't take effect till July 1st, and it's going to take some time for the state to get up to speed, because they're not going to, I'm going to make an assumption they won't accept your assessment because it doesn't focus on the fossil fuel component.
Well, these assessments are not necessarily complete.
No, I
As Wendy
understand.
just said, these were a starting point basically to assess the buildings for obvious structural issues.
I saw that, and I like the way it was prioritized. I thought that was well.
And John was a fantastic help in all of that.
Yep.
And what I'm trying to do with this discussion at the table tonight is try to get to a point where we can say, wait, do we need to go through, as we just did with the 1879 building, each and every one of these points? Because we're going to be here for another 2 hours if we do that. And I don't want to waste your time, but I was on most of these. I was on all of them. I believe there's 3 buildings that seriously need roofs. 2 anyway. This one in the highway garage, both need new roofs.
And the library as well.
Yeah, that's the third one. So, you know, when you start, those are big projects.
No, I agree. I'm just pointing out that there's going to be another team coming in assessing your building. And,
yes.
To be honest with you, I don't think they're going to focus on roofs because the major focus of the legislature is the global solution for the environment that was passed 4 years ago. That requires the state of Vermont to meet certain CO emissions, and there's benchmarks coming up, and this is a component of trying to meet those benchmarks, but it still is not restricted to strictly heating systems.
Right.
And 45 million is not a lot of money.
I know it does tie in somewhat in the discussion of the highway garage. It was we were talking about if that roof's getting done, that whole thing needs to be insulated. which is another part of the whole energy saving process, right? You know, Ray, is that where you were?
I had just a comment. I love the idea of doing the assessment and using that for a starting point. I think before we spend funds on fixing things, we really should do our research and see what's available for grants using the assessment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like a prime example of leveraging other monies would be to take a park, for instance, and have somebody come in and assess it and redesign it and come up with a design plan, and then use the infrastructure monies that are available for outdoor spaces. There's all kinds of 100% match grants with no town money involved, and you could actually redo a whole park, for instance. That's where you'd leverage a little bit of an investment of $20,000, $25,000 for this project for an engineer, have it ready, and then you could get $1 million grant to do a park with federal money.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You really need to roll efficiency Vermont into this discussion because we're all paying, Dave will attest to this, every month you pay into that fund, and they're getting away from just the lighting and all that stuff and getting into envelopes and heating. So you may find that you can take $10,000 of ARPA and make it into 30.
Which is exactly what we want to do. Brandon?
How about I go through each of these prioritization plans and I extract the high priorities, make it a smaller condensed document.
Yes.
And the next meeting, we review those priorities, confirm that they are priorities, and then we move forward with estimates.
Yes. Now, do you need John here for that meeting? I have no
I think we're
problem
good.
with it, I just don't want to waste his time,
Yep, I think we're good.
like we did tonight. I apologize.
Is there some way that you can begin to measure what the total cost will be? We gotta frame this up a lot harder.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about grant money, I'm not talking about anything. And then I would like to see that, there's obviously buildings that have far more use than others. So, I know for years and years, we've talked about a generator for this building.
Yes.
That's got nothing to do with the building, it's got to do, be off the grid. I know both fire departments have that right now, which I found to be good. We don't have one at the highway garage. So,
That is,
is there a way for us or you to assemble that data and then say, you know, like, I don't know.
I think you need to break it down somewhat into like structural, which is, you know, like there's walls and roofs. 1879, we got a pretty severe situation in the basement with water coming in. We have one of those here as well, even if the roof gets done. So there's ways to break it down, and then you get into kind of like, you know, the power supply in 1879 going around the backside. I think it's a great idea, but I don't know if that's high on the priority list. When it comes to what we have for money, leveraging more money, and getting the big things done that are going to save taxpayers money over the next 20, 30, 40
Yes.
years.
so the next meeting, John and I will get together, we'll condense it into high priorities, get rough estimates, and bring it back to the board. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave?
As long as BJ's here, do you know or recall that if the school board has anything to do available for ARPA funds or not, as far as the buildings and grounds go at the school?
I don't believe we've looked into that.
They're not,
No,
they
we
don't,
haven't, no.
so it's not, so when the town gets you know, this amount of money for ARPA, the town, recognizing that the school is a totally different unit.
Ursa, or what's it called?
It's not,
Yes, sir.
Completely different pot of money.
but does this, has the school, and I don't, I mean, obviously you've got a new renovation or newer. Is the school considering anything to do with this kind of
You
thing?
hit it right on the head when you said a generator.
The school's looking at that?
No, we had hoped we could do a generator for emergency, because we have, that space would be utilized during the season for emergency shelter. And I think when we had Irene, and the lack of a generator really tied our hands as a community.
She's looking for ARPA funds that we have
That
from the
would be for
town.
ARPA.
Whose control would that be under? This board or the school board?
I think it would be joint.
Oh, I don't know, I'm asking because it's the last building that's not being taken up at this table.
John is saying the money's not ARPA, it's something else.
It's ESSER, but that's for educational.
Oh,
That's for educational recovery.
Okay.
ESSER is for educational recovery.
okay.
ARPA is,
And I assume you guys are getting some money for ventilation.
yes,
Um,
that was phase one.
When do they come in and test for PCBs? Which is coming.
Let's not go there.
No.
So, I don't know then, I don't know if I got a clear answer. Is the school considered a town building as part of this or not? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't remember what happened.
Oh,
I mean, like, that would be in, I would say, the ARPA regulation.
I don't
Right,
know.
it's a town building.
But this
But the
board,
funding
this
source-
board doesn't have any jurisdiction over the school facility. School board does.
I'll look into that tomorrow.
I'll defer back to BJ on that, but it's probably a joint effort, working together. Try to figure it out. Brandon, take care of that. John, did you have anything else you wanted to do with your legislative update or anything?
Oh, gone through most of it already, but I could just go through a couple. As you might have seen, that the ed fund finished last year with a $90 million surplus, and 22 million of it is going into tax reduction, and which results in the municipal tax rate, the homestead education tax going down 14 cents, which is about a 6% decrease if spending stayed level. Dave and I are going to disagree on this one. There's 96.6 million.
Why do you go down that road?
Broadband for those that are seeking it. A big emphasis this year was, and we've already touched on it, was housing and workforce development. There was a significant bill passed that encouraged and through grants and tax relief benefits to Weathersfield doesn't really fit into this too well, but derelict buildings being fixed up, underutilized buildings being fixed up with an emphasis on housing. We're going to grow this state economy if there's no place to live. It's that simple. I already went over the 45 million that for the municipal grants. And Raymond, the transportation numbers are a little higher than they were last year, so the budgeted amount for state aid to highways will be a little bit higher than what you guys budgeted. And all the funds that we're used to are fully funded or up a little bit. So the ditching money is going to be there. The grants that we've taken advantage of for safety are there. There's money there for Reading. But the key thing is...
That's important because I recall as we were doing the budgets, we were questioning the fact that we don't know which
Yeah, you also budget the same amount and you're happy when it comes in a little higher.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the state is very confident that if they ever lowered it, it wouldn't be pretty. There'd be a lot of squawking because our budgets are done before those numbers are available.
Thank you.
A huge amount of money and effort this year went into workforce development. I don't know if well, of course you're interested, but the state college system was and continues to be in dire shape. That's Castleton, Northern University, VTC, and the community college system. They were in very serious financial difficulty. They almost closed VTC and the two northern ones. We dumped a ton of money into that. They're still not out of the woods, but it's a significant help. UVM hasn't asked for additional money for 8 years, and they're getting an additional $10 million, and they're earmarking it for tuition assistance. So, for Vermont. So, another emphasis was, if you've ever been in the tech center in Springfield, Hartford, and there's several others around the state, they're tremendous facilities that are underutilized. And so the state is trying very diligently to figure out ways so these can be better utilized and turn more people out. And they're also trying to give an incentive to students, this is through the college system, to stay in Vermont. In other words, you get tuition reductions, or if you agree to stay in Vermont for a year or two. And a lot of people, I think, if they stay in Vermont, if you keep them here for a year, maybe they'll stay longer. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. But of course, there's a million other little things that happen. But the pension system, which was in dire shape, and there was a very comprehensive effort made through the summer with all the stakeholders. They came to an agreement. The bill was crafted. The governor vetoed it, and the veto was overridden unanimous in the House and the Senate, first time ever. Is it the ideal? Will it take the pension system completely out? No. And the good news is that it doesn't affect Beamer's, which is municipal. Beamer's system is doing just fine. It was the state employees and teachers that was tanking pretty bad. That's enough for now. It's already getting late.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your service and your time up there this year. This year and last year too?
What's that?
Was it 2 years, right?
Yeah, in January.
Yeah. And then you get to go again.
You never know.
Mr. Foley.
John, we're not gonna debate internet, but in the Vermont Business Magazine, there's a pretty good sized article that TDS has announced a major league fiber build out for whatever their geographical area is. So that's a big deal, a lot more speed.
I saw it, but we got consolidated on this side and they're doing nothing.
I know. What, did redistricting happen? So, and now this new seat will be Weathersfield, Cavendish, and all of Baltimore?
Yes,
Coming up for
this coming election.
the November ballot?
Right,
So that's what, that's done?
definite.
Okay, so that's a little,
I've been to their board a couple times and talked it over, and they were concerned because they're part of Two Rivers Supervisory District. Their kids all go to Chester and Green Mountain.
yeah, but this is, for everybody online, you talk about surprises and brand new. Now all the people in Baltimore are gonna be, whatever there is, 500 or 600, are now gonna be voting.
249.
Okay. With Weathersfield and Cavendish for a representative in the House.
Correct.
Okay. Never happened before.
Any questions for John? Anybody?
And I'm always glad to hear from people because, once again, like the planning commission, operates a vacuum and use your best judgment on how you vote.
I'm gonna start passing your number up.
Don't put me on speed dial.
Okay, let me see if I can get us through the rest of this thing now. Building says town manager updates.
I just have one thing, and that's the local emergency management plan. It was due on May 1st. We did meet and we did the draft plan, and we held a meeting today with Roderick Bates, and we went through the plan and confirmed all the information. So what I'd just be looking for is authorization for the chair to sign the plan so we can submit it to the state. The only changes that were made from last year are just changes in personnel and changes in phone numbers and email addresses, but nothing else within the plan changed except for more public notice locations, and we included our free public Wi-Fi areas in the town.
Motion to approve the town emergency management plan for 2022.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the local emergency management plan for fiscal year 2022. Yes, is that right? Fiscal year?
Calendar year.
Calendar year. 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
I will sign that. Is that here for tonight?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
He's saying no.
No, he's got it there. Just the chair for signing.
Buildings and grounds maintenance contract.
So our building and grounds maintenance contract with TJ Property Management has expired. And my question for the board is, do we put it out to bid? We spend $3,700 annually on this contract, or would you like me to advertise an RFQ? Or would you like to extend it another year? It's for Martin Memorial Hall, Proctor Library, Ascutney Green, Old Meeting House, Perkinsville Green, Perkinsville School, and Hoisington Field.
What is RFQ? I've heard of RFP, I've heard of RFP.
Request for quote.
Oh, that's a new one.
So
Same as proposal, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's the new
the
one.
threshold for
Across the curve. It was Q for curve.
the threshold for an RFQ is 2,500 to 5,000. Actually, I think it's up to 10,000 for RFQs. Is that right?
Go to bid until you hit 10,000.
What did the contract say before? Was it for 1 year or 2 years? And we're in the second year right now?
Just ended.
Yeah,
The
just
second year just ended?
Ended, yeah.
And they started.
Have they said that they would do it for the same money? Have you reached out to them?
They assumed they were still under contract and were doing it for the same money. They've already started spring cleanups.
Well, I guess the question would be, are they in it for the same?
Okay.
If they're not, then I don't know how to answer the question, but then you would go down a road of, well, okay, how much more is enough, and then you could get into, somebody else said, why didn't you give me a chance, and.
Yeah.
I think the request for quotes would be advisable then at that point.
So, in the case that the price has increased, would you like me to do an RFQ with a 15-day turnaround and then have it back to the board for review?
I just want to say that I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable with just extending a contract without some sort of increase, considering the,
Yeah.
you know, the
Well,
times we're in.
Yeah, but if the contractor wanted to, then that's a different story.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Well, then, I don't know what people are doing.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing with that.
We're about looking out for our interests.
I was just gonna say that if they're going and continuing forward and they're doing it for the same price with what's going on with prices, then I think we'd be lucky, but anyway.
But that's not our job. Our job is to look out for us.
I know.
I'm not looking out for anybody else.
I
No
know.
one looks out for me.
I understand, so we should be doing an RFQ.
If
We
the
ask you if
contract,
there's a price increase. If there's no price
there's
increase,
no
jump
price
on
increase.
it. And if there is a price increase, then get an RFQ, is my opinion,
There you go.
if it's asked.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
John?
Just an FYI, you're gonna be getting a fairly strongly worded proposal from a group that really is concerned with the maintenance of the Center Grove, and I'm not the instigator of it. The Conservation Commission, the Historical Society, and the Deacons of the Church are getting together a group, and you're gonna receive a letter. It doesn't affect what you're doing tonight, but just be aware that there's gonna be a proposal of a drastic change in the way grounds are being taken care of.
I'm their friend because I gave them a 2,500 last year.
Yeah,
Well, the board did.
well,
Well, we did. We voted on it.
That doesn't have anything to do with how it's being done.
No, that was for the grounds.
It's not being done well.
That was for the grounds.
Okay.
That was in addition to what was budgeted.
Okay,
Same
so-
with the cemeteries.
Okay, so you're gonna reach out to the contractor.
Yep, and in the case that the price has increased, I'm gonna advertise an RFQ.
Yes, sir. That solves that discussion for this evening, I believe. Anything else on that, Mr. Fuller?
If we have concerns over some grounds that are involved with that particular site, then it's a really good idea that that letter go to the town manager.
Yes.
Because if the caretaking of those grounds of a site that's under the town control is to be developed under something new and different, then that's gotta be taken for consideration.
I don't, I'm gonna be honest, the grass is really growing, the whole yard looks like crap, because of
And
the
there was some-
downlands and everything.
There was a memorial service there on Saturday already.
Right. I would recommend sending it out, and it's not about the money that you're gonna spend up there, although it's always about the money. It's just a matter of, you may be telling the contractor that you don't have to do as much as we thought you did, maybe. But
Oh, you think
your
less?
decision,
You
yes.
think, well, no, and that's, well, all I'm saying is, for that information that John just said is coming forward, I think that should be considered in whatever we're doing for buildings and grounds.
I agree. Ray?
So the long-term discussion has always been to mow less of the grounds around the trees and care for them differently instead of more. So it's gonna be a reduction in work, except for around the church building itself is where we left it off before. They were working on doing their cleanups and getting things done. It was requested to me to have them not do anything until the discussion was done through the boards that are working on how to take care of the grounds. So nothing has been done.
Okay, so the letter is getting drafted, that's the groups that,
The groups are going to meet with Brian this Wednesday, and then some sort of proposal will come out
okay, and that should go to Brandon.
to Brandon.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
We'll know what to do from there.
I think we're on meeting Wednesday.
Yes, Wednesday.
Yeah. Ray, did you have something else?
No, I'm just anxiously awaiting the arrival of the letter so we know how to take care of the grounds.
Okay.
Finally.
Paul, anything? Okay, so that's buildings and grounds. Fund balance discussion. We want to get into this now?
Why don't I just give a brief, real quick? So Sarah Macy from VLCT, she's the finance director for the entire state of Vermont. She's been in the office. She started several weeks ago. She's been working remotely, and she's been here today. She's here tomorrow. She's here Wednesday. She said by Wednesday, she will have our bank reconciliations complete to date. So from that point, her and I went through the most efficient way to pull data from NEMRIC into an Excel document to provide those reports. And in the next meeting, that report will be given so that we have a very accurate estimate of where we'll end the year. And from that point, I think we make decisions on the fund balance.
Okay, and the discussion I had with you was to walk backwards from the date that we need to print and mail the tax bills. So that,
Yes.
so that this board has, I would say, 2 or 3 meetings, even if we have to have a special one.
Yep.
Prior to final decisions on the tax rate. I just want to make sure we have plenty of time and allow plenty, I was hoping we were going to get into these tonight. That the public hearing went probably way longer than it needed to tonight, but that's okay. We have to deal with it now.
So
something on fund balances?
So
Go ahead.
in the next meeting, the expectation will be to provide a report up until May with a June projection, and that June projection is completed by sitting with each department head to determine what their spending will be for June and inputting those numbers for each budget line item. What that will give us is a very accurate estimate of what our year-end figures will look like. And I believe with those estimates, we can make informed decisions on the fund balance.
Anything? Anything? Dave? Something?
I'm not particularly interested in what we're gonna finish the 22 year in. I think we have way enough data because we did nothing with any of the surpluses that were generated at 6/30/2021. Those numbers have been known for a really long time. It is now 10 months into the new financial year. We did nothing with the fund balances that generated on 6/30/2021. They just got carried forward, all of them. I'm very disappointed that we don't have this wrapped up, and I'm not really ready to listen to any excuses. Do we know what the grand list is? Because I talked to Barb Thomas and said it was done.
Brandon?
It was on my list. It was on my list.
Your list too?
They finished their hearings last week, so this week I should hear from Nate with the finalized grand list. I just as a reminder, we did use fund balance for the FY23 budget, so we did expend the majority of year-end highway surplus from last year. So the surplus that I would be talking about for highway would be the projected surplus for this year, for the next year. We didn't use all of the general fund surplus, and I do agree that it should have been addressed.
I think there's a lot going on here, okay? Now, we just heard news from John, and I'd heard it before, that although I don't know how it's all gonna play out with every single buddy's tax bills, I had heard it on the news that there'll be a 14-cent decrease in the homestead education tax rate.
Based on level funded.
Expenses, yes, so that's why I said, I don't know how it's gonna affect Weathersfield that way, so I don't know whether they were, how it all plays out. Barb told me that the grand list was in, so that's a very key component to our decision-making process as far as trying to gather up enough thoughts about what we're gonna do or not do on the tax bill. I had a conversation with you, what cannot be done. The voters voted on 3 articles on town meeting day, one of which is a fee-generated based system with the solid waste, has nothing to do with tax rates.
Right.
So you have to take that number, whatever the number was in the general fund and the highway fund, and then divide it by the new grand list. And that gives your tax rate. I've had this conversation with Steve Heyer, that's what you have to do. The only way that we could lower the tax rate is to write a single line on everybody's tax bill that says tax credit underneath those 2 rates that you have to charge them at. It's a separate function. Just like it was years ago when Larry Moline had an add-on to the taxes when we had to make up deficit because the general fund was in a deficit. So, I'm agreeing with you, I guess, that we might need to have a special meeting or whatever. This has to be done before 6:30, and it's already May, whatever, the 18th or something.
Is 6:30 the right date, Brendan?
What was that?
Is 6:30 the right date?
For what?
For decisions on.
Pay attention over here.
Yep.
We're talking about stuff.
Sorry, I'm listening to Dave and I'm entering things on my calendar so that I don't forget.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing in the
Well,
background.
the reason I said June 30th was, it's very important. That's the last day that any financial decisions can be made in a fiscal year of the town. You can't wait until July 1st. It has to be done by June 30th, decisions, whatever they are. So if we choose to use, for instance, we all know that according to Brandon's other information that we didn't get from tonight, the general fund has a surplus of somewhere around $200,000, right?
Correct.
Of
Just
which,
from this year?
well, not,
That lot,
no,
2021 as well?
It goes back, like, I would say maybe even 5 years, maybe even 10
Well,
years.
not-
2014, because
that's
that's 69,400.
yeah, well, I was getting to that, so no, don't
Different.
mix up the.
Yeah, that's different.
That's different.
Yeah.
So it's not really fair to say that, but it's within a year or two, okay? Yes, the point where, it did not go back from 2014 because it was the previous administration that did this for 3 years in a row. They decided to set aside $69,400 in anticipation of
Right.
a tax.
That's the money that we
Non-payment.
closed the account on.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a one-time deal that we all paid for as taxpayers because that parcel did not. Well, now it has come to fruition and paid. So I think these decisions need to be made before June 30th so that then they can go off to wherever to get printed and then done.
Brendan, you told me you're printing in-house?
The tax bills get printed in-house?
Yeah, they used to, and then during COVID, we sent them off to Doolittle's to get printed, and I believe that we're gonna try to do that again this year.
Oh, you are gonna send them out?
Yeah, to Doolittle's, I believe.
So that goes back to what I said to you, is contact them and back it up.
Yep.
So we know the final date that we have to make a decision to get that stuff there, so everything goes out on time.
Yep.
Tax bills cannot be late, and to Dave's point, if decisions need to be made by June 30th, then we also need to keep that at the forefront and make sure.
I'm really suggesting that we have, before we make a decision, I keep getting on this with the Steve Heyer rule about not making the decision the night it's presented.
Right.
So I think we should have a meeting, perhaps the first meeting in June, where we all have this presented to us.
Yes.
Go home, think about it,
Yes.
and then come back.
Yeah. Yeah, my whole point of having this on here tonight was so that that would happen, that we didn't have to take action, that we'd have some time
To think about it,
digest
to
this
go
stuff and
over
go
it.
through
And
it.
then you don't make a mistake. You don't come back and say, oh gosh, I wish we had,
How many times during budgets have we sat here and heard numbers and 3 days later, there's something different?
and then we made a decision that night and it was a little bit of a trip.
You know, yeah. Not saying that's gonna happen, I'm just, we've
So
been
we have 30 days before, so they have to be mailed out 30 days before the first quarterly tax payment due date. So if you set the due date for the third Wednesday in August, then by the third week in July, we have to have them in the mail.
Or in their hands, you
Yeah.
know, like any bill and any homeowner,
So
you
then-
want 30 days. or
So then
whatever,
we need to know how long it's gonna take at Doolittle's.
Yep, so I think the month of June is, you know,
Right.
present the information on the first meeting in June.
Yeah.
And then if we have to have a special meeting, go ahead and do that.
We'll have at least 2, maybe 3 in June.
Yep, and then we'll have the year-end figures wrapped up, and then we can,
Didn't Doolittle's
work.
do the whole thing last year? Did he send
Yeah.
them as well?
yeah, for a very reasonable price.
No, and you know, I don't know what you've got for staff upstairs, you already don't have a bookkeeper, and I think that they put them in the envelopes too, didn't he?
Yeah, they did.
Didn't Mike do that?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Really, it's.
I don't think it was a lot of money, cause didn't he use the town stamp?
Yeah, he brought them to the post office and used our fee system.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all set with that for tonight? We know where that's coming, we're gonna see that on the next agenda.
If you get the information about the grand list, then send it to us all in an email and
Okay.
use last year's too. Cause that, you know, what we like to see is, everybody, we like to see a half of 1%. I have a sneaky feeling it's gonna be higher than that.
So I'm emailing Sarah right now, and I'm just asking for her assistance to get all this information. I think she'll be a good resource for this.
That will mean that a penny will raise 5,000 instead of 33,000. That's what that means.
Yeah. Proposed future agenda items. I think at this time, let's just let those ride.
Well, the hearing, right?
Well, yeah, we have the hearing. I have that anyway. But I meant the A, B, C, and D that's on there.
Anything else?
Because we also have the fund balance discussion that we just did. That's gonna be a priority at the next meeting. Obviously, the hearing is a priority at the next meeting. And as I said, I'll stay in touch with Brandon and stay on top of that with Brian and Paul as to whether or not we're gonna just continue the hearing or whether we're actually gonna enter into discussion again.
At the planning board?
Huh?
At the planning board?
No, here. If the documents from
Who's-
Ryan and Regional and the stuff through, if that stuff is based on what you were saying, if it's not ready for the next meeting, then I'm just gonna continue the hearing.
What was did the RFP go out for the truck for the highway, Ray?
I have that right here to discuss. I have a very important information I need to discuss with you folks tonight.
We'll take that under any other business?
Yep, that's what the plan was.
We're almost there. We don't have any appointments to do tonight, correct? And that takes us to the warrants.
Make a motion to approve the warrant for May 16th, 2022 for general fund payroll, $12,464.01. Operating expense, $10,733.53. Highway fund payroll, $7,910.77. Operating expense, $9,699.04. Solid waste management fund, payroll is $1,668.23. Operating expenses, $12,785.50. Library payroll is $1,991.08, and operating expenses $0. For grand total of payroll is $24,034.09, and operating expenses $33,218.07.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion and second to approve the warrants. Date on those today, May 16th, correct? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. Ray, any other business? You're up.
Do you guys have anything for other business? Okay. So, I wanted to bring the board's attention, about the bid before we send the bid out for the RFP for the truck. I've been doing a lot of research with dealers about different vehicles. I know we've had some discussion on this truck about, originally, I wanted to try to get it heavier duty to add more responsibilities to the truck to do more. That was obviously changed with the $100,000, which I understand perfectly well. It's not a problem. We then came back, I've been talking to the dealers and the vendors, trying to get the body and the sander and the chassis all to come together under $100,000. There's things we had to cut. It was brought up at the last board meeting that those things probably shouldn't be cut, one of them being the warranty, which I agree 100% that should be there, and the drop sides on the body. Going back to the vendor and discussing it again about the drop sides on the body, it's usually about a $1,200 difference between a regular body and these sides that drop that we brought up that we wanted to get for ease of access. Right now, it's about a $7,000 to $8,000 difference because the price increase for the entire body has gone up, not just that one component. And there's up to a 24 to 30 month wait on getting new bodies. That being said, I looked at the vehicle again, trying to make it do exactly what it's doing now, and that's it. With that in mind, having a hydraulic system on the truck is good for resale. It's good for speed of making the body go up and down, but it doesn't make it whether we can or cannot do the same work we're doing now. So if we take that off, that's a huge savings. The stainless steel body is good for resale. It stops the rust, and it will save, it will give you more on trade-in, but I don't know if it offsets the $8,000 to $10,000 difference now in the cost, an exaggerated cost. Also, the chassis, if you talk to 2 out of 3 vendors that are actually able to bid out of Chevy, Dodge, and Ford for this size truck, Ford and Dodge are not making fleet trucks or municipal trucks. You cannot order one until at least 2023, and they are not giving prices because they have no idea what the prices are going to be. There is an option for a Chevy, again, I'll back up. An F-550, any of the Super Duty trucks are no longer being made in 2022. They're not honoring fleet or municipal bids. They're not offering any discounts for fleet or municipal vehicles. I talked with John and a couple of the other guys at the highway department. We discussed things. This truck we currently have is a 19,500 pound chassis. It's fairly heavy. It's good. We can do this same job with a 1-ton, which is a 15,000 pound chassis. It shouldn't affect anything that the truck does. We need it to haul the chipper. We need it to haul the hydroseeder. We need to haul the crew to do daily jobs all summer and fall and everything. And we need it to cover the route that it has, plowing and salting and sanding, which is relatively small. We don't need to expand its route. We don't need to make it a bigger route or anything. So this chassis would work. The smaller chassis would work, and they're more available at this time. I got a couple more. And the other thing is having an electric plow, like a Fisher, like a V plow. It is more practical in some places on the route, instead of a straight edge. That's the one thing I would like to get. Instead of a municipal heavy duty plow, they have a commercial, like a Fisher V plow that is heavier duty than your regular driveway guy.
Would you do that in stainless? Would you do that in stainless?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying hard to stress the fact that I'm not trying to rush a decision, but if we put it out to bid, the result's going to be you're going to be put on a waiting list, and they're going to call and they're going to say, hey, we have a chassis, the truck is blue, it has the trailer package, it doesn't have this, it has the prep package, but it doesn't have this, this, and this. or it has more. Like Dodge, for example, has a truck coming in 6 weeks that has everything we want with the right rating that we could make into a dump truck, but it's the Laramie edition, so it has leather, heated seats, chrome package, and it's $72,000, which is way above our price range. So you'd have to say no, and then they call the next person in line, and that's how they're selling trucks right now. There is a truck available that would meet our needs based on this criteria and not having it the 19,000 pounds, it's a 14,000 pound truck. It's a chassis and a cab, and it already has a body on it, steel with drop sides. It does not have a plow or sander. The figure I have in front of me is for the truck, the 7-year warranty, extended warranty. It comes with a 5-year, 100,000 mile warranty. That's an additional $5,200. The body and the chassis would come to $80,147 without a plow and a sander. That gives us about $20,000 to purchase a plow and a sander and some strobe lights and side steps, which are about $350. Some of this stuff we can do ourselves, but I would have the plow and the sander installed professionally so it's covered, so it doesn't affect the warranties if we decide to go this route. I know we have a bid process to follow. I'm just asking what the board would like me to do. If we go with this 30-day bid process, we're going to end up on a waiting list, and the cost is going to keep increasing, and we're going to have to either cut the truck less or increase the funding, which can't happen.
Lindy?
Okay, so I don't even want to be rude here, but have you used the electric versus the hydraulic?
Yes, we have electric.
Okay, you do?
Overhead, we have that
Okay.
now.
And so my only concern with that is not the time or the resale or anything like that, but I just know that sometimes loading the electric, you can't load as heavy to the front of them, you can't move as much material, and so it's not, I understand with not doing the stainless steel because.
We have used this truck since 2012, and it has electric lift on the body, and it has met our expectations. It's done its job. We aren't going to use it to go out and put on a full load of sand and try to sand an entire plow route. If I was to get the 22,000 pound truck with a little bit bigger body, we would have that option, but that's totally, with this price stuff going on, that is totally off the table. Maybe in 7 years, if this truck doesn't work at this rate, we can go back to getting a 19,000 pound or a heavier duty truck. But I feel we could get by with a 14,000 pound truck if needed.
What is this, Ray? Is it a Ford, Chevy, Dodge? What is it?
I was trying to keep the name out of it, but it's a Chevy. It's a 3500 dual axle Chevy.
Okay, I want to know that. Then the next question is, have you seen the truck?
Yes, sir.
So have you looked at it when it's dumped?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, I know some of the bodies are, like they got 4 cross members, and some of them got like 8. Have you seen that?
Correct.
What's this one got?
It has, I believe, 8. It's an airflow body. It's the same body that the other vendor would bid on through the state contract. So it's a very well-built body. It's not chintzy.
No. What color is it?
It's black.
Not red?
The option right now is black.
Okay.
So here's what
Any color you want, as long as it's
suggest,
black.
Mr. Chairman. I suggest that Ray get 3 quotes. So he would have to go find time to potentially say, so I believe our bid process, or whatever the procedure is to get 3 things together.
Correct.
And then,
Didn't you just give us 2 other trucks that were out of range?
I have 2 quotes. I could get a third.
well, I don't know, I'm just trying to not get out of the bid process.
You're
Yeah,
trying to
the
follow the process, I got you.
I'm very happy to hear this. You heard me say at the last meeting that I'll never buy another truck or whatever we're gonna do without a warranty, and he just said it's a 7-year full warranty.
Yep.
And there's obviously a transferable one on that. So I'm okay with trying to, given the price, I'm very happy to hear and a concern that Wendy just said about maybe about what the loading of what it is. Remember, we have 6 other big trucks that do the heavy
That was my other
lifting.
question was,
So it's not like we're asking this to do the heavy lifting.
Right.
I'm okay almost getting this off the plate. I don't know the voter authority of the process to do it and let you as the chair and the town manager make it happen.
You would have to look at the policy, the purchasing policy. I know that there used to be a thing in there that said if it was better for the taxpayers or town to eliminate the bid process, you could do that, but I don't know if that's in the.
Yeah, but I think we're above that dollar threshold. I'm a little scared about that, but I'm okay with letting this happen. He's given us the numbers. He's worked within his thing, and
I want to hear what Paul's got over here.
I'm perfectly fine. I'd say go get what he needs. The only problem that I have is on the article, didn't it specify what kind of truck it was and how much?
No, dollar
We
amounts.
didn't, just dollars.
Last 3 or 4.
Okay, no, cool. That's all I cared about.
How
then.
long's it gonna
I'm
take you
good.
to get a third quote? How quick can you have it?
This week?
Just
I'm
call
hoping in
someone.
the next 2 days.
Motion for the board
So
to allow the chair to sign.
a contract. So, I'm ready,
Hang on, Ray.
Before the motion, under discussion, I'll have something.
Go ahead. Ray, are you gonna do something?
Under discussion, I'll bring it up.
Oh,
before you
okay,
vote.
Dave.
So here's the question too. I mean, obviously, the vote was in March, and I don't know whether Brandon needs to check with Steve Heyer. I don't know the financing mechanism of this purchase, whether it has to come after July 1st or not.
I think
the payment.
I think the financing mechanism I can have on the next agenda, and I'll ask Steve to attend.
It has to. Yeah, it was voted in March. The purchase has to happen.
I think, I don't know that we should be waiting that long. I think that you should gather that information, Brandon, and call Mike and you guys meet about it. That's what I
Yeah.
think.
The purchase has to happen after July 1st, but there's nothing saying I can't put something on reserve.
Right.
So we have it.
So I'm a
And
little,
that's what I was trying to get to.
I'm a little nervous about the fire truck we just had happen.
Right, and I don't want that to happen.
So-
And that's what's gonna happen if we put it out to bid.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, how quick can you get it?
Right.
Get the board to authorize me to
I
sign.
have one, if I can find it, I'll have to give you
Line.
a copy.
I'm gonna make a motion that the chair, the town manager, and the highway department head, take up the consideration of the purchase of the 1-ton truck that Ray just outlined as a matter of the minutes. 2023
The 22, sorry,
truck, whatever,
3,500 Chevy.
GMC.
is it diesel?
Correct, it's a 6.6 liter.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I don't second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
So, that being said, this is gonna be the chassis with the body already on it. That's what they have available. If it happens to be gone by the time I can get down there by the end of the week, which I don't know, I'm not trying to be a pressure salesman here. They have other ones coming, so I'll have to get a body to put on it, and they have several bodies to choose from at the same price. So there's like 3 trucks.
Can I suggest you call them tomorrow?
I can.
I would,
But I'm gonna have to put out, I want to put out to bid the installation of the plow and the sander, because they gave me a price. I made a call to a vendor that we bought our other sander from, and I have like a $4,000 savings just by going to them and getting the municipal contract instead of having the dealership put it on. So, little things
Who
like
is
that.
Who is that?
It's Fisher down in Walpole.
Yeah.
Is what I was looking at. Also, if we do all our paperwork, this might enable us to get a $7,000 municipal discount with them still. They're still honoring those.
okay.
They're 99% certain that we are eligible because we are a municipality.
I'm all okay with you guys working that out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Make it work.
okay.
Yeah.
So as long as it's under the 100,000, then this doesn't even take into effect the fact that we have a trade.
I want them to know tomorrow how hard we're working to make this happen.
I will
Need
contact.
to
That's
talk
what
to
I
the
was
treasurer. Because
Okay.
when you make something hard happen, they say, give me the check and it's yours.
Correct.
If you say, well, how about next week? They say, well, you didn't give me the check.
Well, we'll give you the check, but it's gonna be dated for July 1st.
Money talks.
So I really appreciate it, and again, I'm not trying to pressure you folks into anything. I just wanted to put the facts out there.
Well, we have to play with the environment that we're in right now, and it's not healthy.
If it doesn't work, we can always make the truck bigger next time. Always next time.
The truck that we have gonna get us through next winter if it has to?
We did not plow with it last winter because the plow is, I didn't want to invest in rebuilding the plow or buying a new
Okay.
plow. I plowed the whole thing with the pickup. So-
Okay.
And we had a company come in and do here. Then if we get this and it happens before winter, that's perfect because we can take our parking lot back and not have to pay a contractor.
We're
Okay.
gonna get good money for the old truck.
I hope so.
Any other business that can be
We'll have it
conducted?
up on Marketplace.
Any other business?
We need to take a vote. We didn't
Oh,
vote
oh.
on.
Discussed it.
Loudon.
We talked about
Motion
it.
and a second on the floor, that's right, we went into discussion. I'm spent, I'm tired. The motion is to authorize town manager, chair, and highway superintendent to, follow through on the proposal from the highway superintendent on a Chevy 3500 Chevy. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 If
Discussion's done. No, I'm just kidding.
the meeting's over, I have something.
It is. Okay, any other business? None? Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
If Brandon and yourself would like to go down and look